is happening, everybody? Thanks for joining me on this lovely Sunday afternoon. It's actually miserable as shit, but that's fine. We're gonna have ourselves quite the time today streaming female. We're gonna have ourselves quite the time. Sorry about that. Just had a little snafu, as we always do. What is one of these streams without me just fucking up? As always, so welcome to the stream of episodes 22 and 23. I can't believe we've made it so far, and I know it's actually been over a week since I've done one of these. Normally, I was trying to bang them out 2 in a week, and then honestly, I'm in a very conflicted place with these because I kind of like doing them, but I kind of hate doing them. And then people message me and they go, I fucking hate this shit. And some people message me and go, I love this. Please don't stop. And then some people are like, I hate this shit. Please don't stop. We're all over the place. David Brantley told me that I wasn't going to start on time. I did start on time. I'm actually quite punctual, and I hate people who are not. So I generally try and be as punctual as possible. And as always, welcome, Queens, Scrotes, negative value males, high value males, and more importantly, the low value males, which is most of us. I'm not going to stop doing this. My goal is just eventually someone recommending. So my buddy Chris from Brooklyn, Chris Vega, very funny comedian. He said, and I've had a few people message me this, so I may try this. You can tell me what you think about this. I may try to listen on my own to 2 episodes like I normally would with all of you, edit it down to a more manageable chunk, and then I'll premiere it on YouTube and we can watch it together. That's something I could maybe do, but I'm not going to stop it. And I will be back in Nashville. Free Dinner Strategy, Justin says, is best name. It is so funny. And that's, I didn't make that up, but welcome again to the Scrotes. The fake titties have arrived. If anybody was watching Low Value Mail last week, Royce, that piece of shit from Revenge of the Sis, he forced my hand, and now I have a pair of size Z fake-ass tits sitting 5 feet away from me. I don't know if I could wear them on YouTube, though. I don't have a shirt for them. I don't even know what kind of shirt you buy. What kind of shirt do you get for size Z titties? I don't even know if they're going to fit me, to be honest. They say they're for people, like I'm on the maximum range of size-wise for these people, for these things, but they're latex, so I don't know. We'll see what's going on with them. Luckily, I can return them if that happens. I can't show you the titties. I don't think I can show them on YouTube because I did the sketch. If anybody's not seen the sketch, bigassfaketitties.com, and I bought the domain, and YouTube really restricted that. It did worse than almost anything I do. And it was a pretty funny sketch, I thought. And it did really badly because YouTube flagged it for showing these big ass fake tits. So it's solid latex. Hold on. Do you want to? Okay, I'll go get it. This is a sneak peek. By the way, this is a real sneak peek. Nobody's seen them. I just got them. So sit tight momentarily, please. Oh, okay. We're back with some big ass fake titties. No, I'm shout out to everybody on Rumble who's watching as well. So the pretty heavy thing right here. See that? It looks like it looks like from the set of Dahmer. See that? You fucking dirty dog. See that nipple right there? That's all you get, though. That's all we got. I'll be wearing them officially this Tuesday on an all new episode of Low Value Mail. The topic, which makes the most amount of sense, the topic is going to be, what is the dumbest thing you have done on a dare? Because this is going to be up there for me. I got to say, this is going to be up there for me. So anyways, they weigh 20 pounds. Pretty heavy. It's Andrew says I have to wear them around New York City. It's fucking cold in New York City right now and raining. And I got to go buy talcum powder. That's the worst part, is I got to cover my body in talcum powder. Otherwise, I don't think you can take them off. But yeah, they're 20 pounds. So shout out to all the ladies in the world who actually have these big ass fake titties for real. And that must be tough on the back That must be real tough on the back. But anyways, Low Value Mail Tuesday night. Join me. I'll be debuting the Big Ass Fake Titties. And then last Thursday, if anybody caught it, we had the first episode of The Bathhouse, which is a live stream call-in show live from the green room of the Stand Comedy Club in New York City. It went off mostly without a hitch. I was very nervous about it. A lot more goes into that than any of the other shit I do in terms of tech-wise. So for the most part, worked out. It's going to be a weekly show going forward. They loved it. The people at the Stand loved it. So it's going to be, for now, going forward, it's going to be weekly. I would love for you to come watch that as well, support that, because that's a fun show. And that kind of show is just straight up comedian hang. So if you're into comedy, which I think a lot of you are, and you have questions about comedy, you want to ask comics, we're going to have the Stand gets some of the best comics in the world. Like literally Shane Gillis is there, Tim Dillon, Louis C.K. I've seen Dave Chappelle there. Like, fuck, man. Honestly, the list goes on. And my goal with this show is essentially just to hopefully get these people to come hang. So, I mean, there's tons of other. They're not just them, but this is the kind of talent we're working with. We got the Skanks, of course, all the Skanks, everybody. Yes, David Brantley. We did not start the Bathhouse on time, but that was not my fault, David Brantley, you piece of shit. So it started late. It's supposed to start at 10 p.m. I get there, and the manager, this guy Joe of the Stand, one of the best guys in the world, he goes, "Hey, it's Andrew Dice Clay's birthday. And tonight he's having it at the Stand, and there's an Elvis impersonator, and he needs the green room." So we couldn't start on time. We had no choice. We weren't even allowed access to the green room until 10:20, and it takes time to set up. So David Brantley, do not fucking dab on me, you piece of shit. It was not up to us. Anyways, that's all I want to say about that. Also, if anybody watched the Low Value Mail Patreon last week, we made, I got a lot of more info on this Peter Schickele dude. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, I've been rambling too much. Enough of you are here, 56 of you. If we hit 100 likes, as always, I will give away a YouTube subscription. Without further ado, let's watch some female dating strategy. Episode 21, Judge Lynn Toler holds court with the queens. I got to say, I don't know if it's like a Cockholm syndrome that but I miss them a bit. I haven't listened to any of this in a bit. And I miss them. So let's see how they're doing. Episode 22, Judge Lynn Toler, who's like some divorce court chick, I believe. And again, if the audio's no good, let me know. I can crank up my audio. I can crank up their audio, or vice versa. And then also, if you love to support the show, patreon.com/lowvaluemail. Let's get to it.
Up, Queens.
What's up, Queens?
This is your host, Savannah, and before we begin the show this week, I have a special announcement. I am pleased to announce that I'll be taking part in an Ask Me Anything during the first week of August, sponsored by FDS, for our Patreon subscribers at the Queen Shit and the Level Up tiers. You can ask me about how I like my tea, British weather, it's not great.
Why the fuck would anybody want to know any of this shit? To be perfectly honest, why would they want to know any of this stuff? So anyways.
Welcome to the Female Dating Strategy Podcast.
What's up,
The
Queens?
only female podcast on the internet. I'm your host.
By the way, we're just starting. I got to do this. I'm going to start at 1.25 speed because we always get there. So there's no point of dicking on.
Ro.
And this is Savannah.
And this is Lilith. And today we have a very special guest, the Honorable Judge Lynn Toler. You may know her from Divorce Court, as well as the current host of Hip Hop Marriage Boot Camp. She is also the author of My Mother's Rules, a practical guide to becoming an emotional genius. Judge Lynn Toler.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Shout out, David.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. It really is.
So as we were discussing before we started hitting record, you have had a cross-continental influence, because Savannah was the person who was like, "Hey, we got to get Lynn Toler on the show," because she absolutely loves your show and has learned so much about relationships from it.
Okay, I've never heard. Yeah, she's learned so much about relationships other than how to get into one.
We also talk about here on the podcast.
Yeah, 100%. Because I found female dating strategy in about 2019, and I've been watching Divorce Court since about 2015. It was my older sister who introduced me to Divorce Court, and it's very similar to FDS.
Honestly, it's super telling that their favorite show on female dating strategy is Divorce Court. That says so much about these chicks.
It's very straight talking, isn't it? That's what I really loved about the show. And I felt like the women who appeared on that show they went away empowered, even though the answer to their relationship problem may not have been, what they wanted to hear, such as you need to leave this dude. But, it was your entire approach to helping them to understand to put themselves first and to not basically accept any crap just to keep a man. And that's what really, really resonated with me.
Right. I did talk to a lot of young women on the show, and actually older women as well. And I think women often find that their sense of self-worth is so intricately intertwined with their status as far as being married or not married. And sociologically, of course, that's what we're going to do, because for millennia, it was like you were defined by what male you were attached to. And now that we are in this new age where male attachment is not necessary to function in society, nonetheless, we still like having them. We enjoy them. You know what I mean? We want to touch one and bring him home. Or bring him home and touch him. I think that's a better order for things. So we have to just figure out how to navigate this new normal and love our relationships, enjoy our relationships, pursue our relationships, but don't be defined and destroyed by them.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, so just feeding off from that, Judge Lynn, in your time on divorce court and on the bench, what would you say are the biggest mistakes that women make when it comes to dating and to being in a relationship with a man?
Too much too soon. That's number one. I mean, dudes, I said this on a show once, dudes do a wonderful thing. They go out on a date and they enjoy the date. We in the middle of the date thinking, well, this is looking good. That box is checked off. No, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Is he the one? Blah, 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 blah. We tend to do that a lot. And I would like you to enjoy the date just for that.
Yeah.
We're big
enjoy
on
the
that
fucking date.
with female dating strategy. And we actually advocate for women to get in a habit of dating, if you can, multiple guys so that you can stay in the moment when you're on a date rather than always every new man that you see projecting.
By the way, I actually had a little insight the past week away from this shit. And they call, because they're talking about having a scrotation, but isn't that a rotation of scrotes?
In the future onto him.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it leans itself sometimes to women over committing themselves to men who haven't committed themselves to the woman if they don't kind of look at their dating pool in a broad way.
Right, absolutely. And we need to dabble more. And I mean, you can dabble with your clothes on. As you don't have to do a whole lot of,
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Thank you.
Can wait before sex. Come on.
I mean, and it's like, you're like, I don't need that. I don't need you, but I'm checking you out. What's happening over here? Always be honest, always be true. Hey, I'm just trying to find what I like here. And men will sit there and you become hard to attain. And that makes them competition for one another, as opposed to you're seeking to cuff one up and lock him down.
Yeah, he should be the one trying to cuff you, not you trying to cuff him.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's how we do here.
Absolutely. And it's when you get married, it's such a boon for the guy. Most divorces are started by women, statistically. The vast majority, 70 to 80%, depends on the time.
Wait, are they trying to say that dudes are super pumped about getting married?
On where are started by women. And typically, women are far less likely to remarry because they don't want to, because we tend to give so much in the marriage relationship. I'm responsible for all of the health care. I worry about his food. I look at him. What is he doing? Men live longer when they're with us. We do so much in knitting together that relationship that you ought to feel like I'm going to give you.
I mean, women literally outlive men, so I don't.
So much if you get me. You got to work to put me in that position.
Absolute facts.
Yeah, facts.
Preaching to the choir, man.
There's so many tangible, intangible benefits to having a woman in your life.
Oh my goodness.
Best case scenario, he'll have a medium or neutral effect on your life, but in more cases than not, he'll have an actively harmful effect on your life. So
I always say I need a wife. I got a husband. I need a wife. I need somebody to worry about it and wonder about eventualities. Well, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you have it? Blah, 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 blah. We do all of that. And it's funny because when I started traveling for divorce court, because I was living in Ohio and we taped out in LA, my husband
I was hoping she traveled to Saudi Arabia to do some on-location episodes there.
Had a whole new, because I'd be gone for 2 weeks and he'd come back. He was shell-shocked. He had no idea what was going on while I was there. Just none. So we do a lot at the crib, and you got to remember that. And so it's funny that we're the ones always wanting to lock down a committed relationship, but they benefit far more from that committed relationship than we do, typically. Not always, there are exceptions, but typically.
Yeah, that's what we want to turn on its head, because it makes no sense for men, if they benefit more from relationships, it makes no sense for women to be the ones who are constantly trying
to
lock it down.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about that with the pandemic, about how much more labor women are putting in right now, because they're the ones a lot of times that are taking less hours at work so they can take care of family, not just their children, but like their larger extended family, which may be sick. A lot of that kind of work and emotional labor and work on developing the family falls on women. And it's been really, really, really clear this past year and a half just how much that's true.
Absolutely true. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine not too long ago, and her mother was older, and she left town and left her brother in charge. And I said, and he said, well, he's a dude. So he did about a third of what he was supposed to do because he didn't even think that way. You know what I mean? We think in layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And this isn't a negative thing on them. It's just how they do business. They do this one thing along the line while they're like a laser and we're like photon bursts. We take care of a whole lot of stuff.
more like a frag grenade.
All at once. And you don't really realize how much we do because we do so much of it so quietly. That
too loud? Too loud?
Yeah, it's so bizarre to me how men simultaneously undervalue the work that women do, but are also so dependent on it.
So dependent on it. Just so dependent on it. It's
know
amazing.
When it's gone.
Yes,
yeah.
They realize it when it's gone. Right?
Yeah.
My sister's a doctor, and she's a neurologist, and when she has a guy and he's got a wife, she won't let them come to an office a visit without the wife because the wife does all the talking. The guy will always say, she'll ask them how they feel, and they'll say, fine. And a lot of neurological changes can be small aphasias and different things that are signs that men will either ignore or simply don't want to say, I'm weak or this, that, or the other thing. So she always says, listen, if you got a wife, bring her, because she's going to give me better information than you are.
Oh, my gosh.
No, that's so true. I had a great uncle who died of bladder cancer because he didn't tell anyone that he was peeing blood for like 2 years. And it was only when his wife found out that...
Wait. Is that bad?
She dragged him to the doctor's office, but by then it was too late. It was like stage 4. Yeah, if he'd told her like 2 years earlier, it could have saved his life.
And it was interesting when my husband had gallbladder surgery once, and I was sitting in the waiting room, and everybody who
the thing that they don't factor in is that maybe he was in this relationship and he goes, I think I'd rather just die.
Came in. Whether it was a CEO or a construction worker, if it was a dude coming for a procedure, the woman came up to the front desk and did the business, and they stood back. They stood back, and it was because, and that's what I did. When I came in, I said, he's here for this, blah, 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 and,
Probably a lot more blah, blah, blah than that, but we all know.
No wonder they don't live as long as we do. God.
Oh my. So this kind of lends to our next question, because so often these kinds of tasks are taken care of by women, why it's important for a lot of women to ask for marriage and get marriage, because having this ability is a lot of times precluded on you actually being this person's wife and actually having a legal piece of paper. Whereas, if you're sick or he's sick and you don't have marriage, it's a little bit trickier. What kinds of things in your lifetime and in your career that you've observed maybe disadvantage women by not getting married, or what would you say are the biggest advantages of marriage? And are you pro-marriage? Do you believe in marriage? I guess I should have asked.
Yeah. Why is it bad to be a forever girlfriend, or is it bad to be a forever girlfriend?
Not if you're cool with it. I got a girlfriend from high school, never got married, been with this guy longer than I've been with my dude, and she's fine. She doesn't have a problem with it. They live in New York. They're both, high powered, this, that, or the others. And she's cool with it. She doesn't want it. I like being married. First of all, I like the fact that, you go into the hospital and he's your boyfriend. Doctor don't know you from Adam. You're nobody. You're a legal stranger to him. He's comatose or something. His parents can decide what happens to him, and you're going to be the one taking care of him, but you don't have any legal rights because you're not married. If he dies suddenly,
Lucky.
All that stuff he's got, you're not legally attached to him, economically attached to him, none of that. There are, my husband's an accountant. There are tax reasons why marriage is a good thing. There are, if you do have children, it is a good thing to have that. What a marriage often does, like for years 18, 19, and 20, I ain't like my husband at all. Do you hear me? I'd as soon shot him as said hello to him. But we had kids. And I'm like, look, they're teenagers. I can't raise them boys by myself. And we made it work. And I called my mother and she told me how to change the situation. God took 17, 18 years to get me in this mess. It took me like 3 years to get out of it, but we figured it out. But marriage is like, look, I am committed to the proposition of staying with you. And that means we're both going to have to work. And when you have that kind of commitment, when you put it on paper, when the law knows it, when medicine knows it, it makes you feel better. And if it's such a not big a deal, as they say, well, what's the piece of paper? What value is it? If it makes me happy and feel secure, what's your problem?
Exactly. Yeah. The piece of paper thing makes me so mad. Yeah. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. And you want to go. Yeah. If you're looking to stay single so you can go without any technical problems, then I don't want to deal with you because I don't want you up and walking off because it's easy for you to do. If that's the only reason you don't want to get married.
So now we got to the bottom of it. Women just don't want it to be easy for dudes to cut and run.
But if you say there's no reason to get married other than the fact that it makes you safe, secure, happy, and sound, and you can't do that for me, thank you. Next.
You're welcome.
I love that.
Yeah, because it seems like people do everything that, you know, would be done in a marriage, such as they'll buy a house, they'll have kids together, they'll be together for 15 years, and then they'll say, I've been engaged for 8 years, and you're just like, this just seems so backwards.
Especially with millennials.
Yeah, that's what I talk about. I tell people, I call it an installation violation. And what it is you're installed in his life as the most convenient appliance he has. It's sexually gratifying. You make meals, you take care of him, all the health, the cleaning, the cooking, all of that stuff.
We call that a mommy McBang maid, which is not the
same thing.
Little
but
vulgar, but
it's a great name though. Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And that's a woman's fault. If you install yourself into his house and then wonder why he's not going to give you a ring, that's just silly.
Yeah, so many millennial, and I've even seen this in the mainstream media talking about this. So many millennial women now have committed to buying homes with guys.
It's like, why?
And sometimes these homes are just money sucks. Like they're not even feasible fixer-uppers that they're going to be able to flip in a short amount of time. And then they break up before they have a chance to even capitalize on the house that they had.
Well,
and I'm
why
like,
would you buy a place if you're planning on like? I'm sure they're buying it. That's as much as an intertwining as marriage.
the point of buying a house with a guy and you don't have some kind of stable long-term commitment? A mortgage
Good
is 40
question.
years, right?
Is
30,
she a
40
real
years.
judge?
I worked in finance for a long time, and this was a tale as old as time, to the point where the mortgage advisors would tell me, like, on the down low, that don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. They couldn't say that to customers, but we'd get people who were 20, 21 buying a house with their boyfriend. And I just think in those years, because in the UK, it's very much like people look down on you if you don't own a house by 25. Like,
Really?
you're basically vilified. Yeah, it's a massive,
What's
you
going
need to
on
get
in
on
the
the property
UK?
ladder ASAP. People like look down on you if you rent. It's very much a mortgage culture, and for many people, the only way they can afford a mortgage is if they buy a house with their partner.
Two folks. Yeah.
That's the only way they can get one. But the problem is they're pushing this on young people. When you're 21, 22, your life will change so much over the next 5 years, and we'd see it all the time where they'd buy the house a year later. He wants to leave, and she will be thousands of pounds out of pocket because they're in negative equity. And it was really, really sad.
If there's one thing I would really want to tell young women, and the book I wrote, Dear Sonali, Letters to the Daughter I Never Had, I had 6 sons. So, and I never got a little girl.
It's a lot of sons.
Yeah, isn't it? And I married a guy with 4 sons. I had 2 more boys. He clearly can't do girls. I gave up. But the one thing that I would say to them is don't fall into the river of culture, because it's a rushing river that will have you all the way down and land you in an ocean you never intended to be on. Just
Kind of based.
because everybody's doing it, and we share from the moment we get up in the morning to when we go at night, we share everything we do. And once we start doing that, everybody starts getting ideas about what we ought to do, as far as, this is what we do in the dating scene. This is what we do about a house. This is what we do about this. This is what we do about that. And the minute you start doing that, you end up doing stuff because it's culturally appropriate as opposed to personally acceptable. It's not the best thing for you. My sister never got married. She just didn't. And she's a doctor, and now, the guys can't keep up with her. She'll get a guy and she'll keep him for a while. And the minute he causes her trouble, she fires him and moves on.
Queen.
Shit.
We don't falter at all.
No second chances.
That point is very interesting about the river of culture or the wash. I'm trying to remember how you phrased it, but like how culture pushes women in a certain direction that a lot of times isn't beneficial to us. And if you don't stop and look around
and think, where am I? Why am I in the water? What am I doing in the water? Is everybody in the water doing what I want to do, or do I want to do something else? And can I swim upstream while everybody's going downstream? It's often it's a matter of just sitting back and acknowledging, oh, this is what pushed me to do this, as opposed to, well, this isn't, just, I'm going to go along with it. You have to take a step back from what you're doing and decide who decided that you would do it. Was it you? Or was it the people around?
So true. And that honestly is why I think female dating strategy has had the resonance that it has and picked up the audience that we did, is because a lot of us who were involved in the subreddit started to stop and take a look at our lives and realize, where are we getting all these cultural messages that are pushing us towards things that, when we start to take like an actual factual inventory of our lives, have not been beneficial to us, right?
Exactly.
And so we mostly focus on dating, but there's so many other things, around that. We already kind of touched on some of those themes, like buying property with men you're not married to. Or
makes no sense. Yeah.
I mean, dudes, don't buy fucking property with women you're not hooked up with either. It's like they think the way they act about this, where like for men, you're like, oh yeah, this is a slam dunk decision. Nothing can go wrong for me because I'm a man.
And committing too soon with guys, and another thing that we
worst idea for a guy than a woman.
Against is how what we would call feminist culture sometimes pushes women to be way more sexually promiscuous or than a lot of women are comfortable with, especially at young.
Shout out to all my feminists.
Ages. There's a big push right now for girls to get involved in OnlyFans, thinking it's going to be get rich quick, thinking it's going to be a money making avenue for them.
Can I say this very unpopular thing?
Go ahead. We love unpopular opinions.
You may. Go ahead.
The sexual revolution bus was nice to be on, but it backed over us in the end. When we detached that sex thing from marriage, it gave us a harder road to hoe. Now,
harder road to hoe?
No pun intended. I like that it happened, and I like that we have the right to be sexual beings, and I like that I didn't, that I allowed myself to be a sexual being before I got married. Having said that, I was very persnickety about it. You know what I'm saying? No hookups, no none of that. Sex is good. And you could get carried away with the joy of, oh, this one, that one, the other one. But I think that if you're not careful, and it sounds like, oh, women need to be modest and have a small body count. I hate that body count business. I think you should have as big a body count as you want.
And put it on your forehead.
You have to understand what you do and where you want to be. You can't have all of this and want all of that and expect it all to come at the same time.
We're big on curating sexual experiences that actually we think are going to be beneficial and enjoyable. The problem with the hookup and the fast sex is that a lot of guys just aren't good at it.
No!
I mean, there's no nice way to say it, right? So the way that we recommend with our strategies is to take it slower, but it's not because we think like, oh, women need to be modest. Right. We need to look virginal to men so we can get, a ring or anything. It's because
it's for our own benefit. We make them wait for our benefit.
Create boundaries.
Exactly. And awaited sex is better than the hookup sex. I'm sorry. You get that anticipation, that wait on both of you. It's more fun that way. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. It's maybe tonight, maybe not. You got to enjoy the whole ride. And the whole ride isn't just the Rumpy Bumpy when you're naked. The whole ride is getting to the Rumpy Bumpy.
Yeah. I hate how
Rumpy Bumpy. The Rumpy Bumpy.
It's considered abnormal nowadays to go on a date and not like hook up on the first or second or third date.
I think that's crazy.
I think it's very. I don't like how when I go on a date, at the end of the date, sometimes guys are okay about it, but a lot of the times they act like shocked. Like, why would you be on online dating and not hook up with me the first time we meet? Some of them want a hookup before even the date. Like they want.
That was just crazy.
They want.
That's a lot. The hookup before the date, where you're like, why don't you just meet me in a dumpster, behind a dumpster? We'll hook up and then we'll go grab some drinks.
Sex without even taking you on a date. Like, just come over.
Netflix and chill. I mean, it's just like, come over. Yeah, can I grab a piece? Yeah, come on over. It's 2 a.m. Booty call. I don't believe in none of that.
Yeah, it's like they treat women like, pizzas for delivery or something like that. And so I don't like how I'm considered a prude or, backwards for not liking that or not wanting to do that.
And if you can get it that easily, you don't really feel like you got to deliver. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. If you could just have sex with you know what I mean? Now, if you've been waiting to have sex with me for 3 months, 4 months.
3 months? 4 months? This chick is not living in reality. Maybe in the fucking 70s. But if you think that some dude is going to stick around for 3 to 4 months and you're not both religious?
Come in there like, man, you know what I mean? excited and anticipation, and you're gonna make it. You really want me and desire me, and it's gonna be an experience as opposed to, ain't nothing on TV. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, I mean, we call them low value men. So, you don't want to be having sex with them anyways. But a lot of guys are low value and think that, oh, if she doesn't have sex with me on the first, second, or third date, then it means she's not interested in me. Like if she makes me wait for sex, she's not worth it. And they move on kind of thing. So a lot of women feel pressure to put out sooner than they would feel comfortable with just to maintain his interest. And that's a bad move. It's a bad calculation.
They're being hyped up by a lot of these male dating coaches who I won't give the dignity of naming.
Oh, don't get me started.
I won't. But they're getting that kind of advice where if she doesn't have sex with you by the third date, she's not into you. You need to next her, right? And so
that seems like a pretty reasonable thing. 3 dates. You've been on 3 dates and she's not in that. And
they miss out on actual connections because they're so concerned about the fast hookup.
If there is an actual connection, then probably you will have sex.
It's like they didn't teach them how to read attraction signals from women. Right. They just look at it like a formula, like this is the way it is, and if she doesn't put out right away, then she doesn't like you.
Yeah, this is what we are in a society where we are such big fans of labels. This is a woman. This is how women think. This is a man. This is what men think, and we're actually individuals.
First off, nobody knows what a woman or a man is anymore,
and it's really difficult, sometimes for men to think of us as individuals. We are a pool of people. And especially when they're younger, they don't see us as much as individuals. As you age, the guys get more knowledgeable about that, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I find like young guys nowadays I don't know if it's always been like that because I am young, but younger guys just seem to have this really intense hatred of women or very bitter or feeling like women owe them stuff.
Oh, you bitches want to talk about who's bitter?
Or if women don't do this or this, or they just think all women are the same and are kind of bad. And
it's become so combative on both sides. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It's just very, you go on the Clubhouse and you go into these rooms and it's
Remember Clubhouse? During the pandemic, and everybody's like, this is the next big thing, Clubhouse.
It's horrifying. The assumptions that both sides make about the other side, they demonize the other side. They take the 2 or 3 experiences that they've had with men or women, and they universalize it and saying all women are this and all men are that. And we're coming to each other as, labels and assumptions and presumptions, and we're not seeing each other as people. And I remember one time there was a whole lot of people in a clubhouse talking about, what do you want in a woman and what do you want in a man? And they were talking that high value nonsense. I want a guy over 6 figures. How foolish is that? I want a guy over 6 figures. What you want is a guy that's got a future, a guy that gets you, a guy that knows where you're weak and won't walk on it. I mean, there are so many things that make a good husband that got nothing to do with the dollar.
I love these girls are kind of silent because they're like a bunch of episodes ago. They're like, yeah, I mean, we do kind of want that. So, all right.
Or the looks or the sex.
Yeah, I think we have a different use of high value, low value. Like if a guy is rich and has a huge dick and is tall and handsome and everything, but if he's abusive, he's low value. So
Exactly.
The value is like the degree to which he positively or negatively impacts your life.
That's right.
If he has a good influence in your life, improves your quality of life, even if he's not rich, that we would consider that person high value. A low value man, yeah.
I'm the primary breadwinner in my house, have been for years. But that man...
Shout out to her Stedman.
When I'm depressed, he knows what to do. When I'm upset, I haven't filled my gas tank in years. He knows where I'm, when I say to him, I love you, don't you? And he goes, what's wrong? Because I say that when I'm nervous. And so it's his job to keep me upright and feel good. It's his job to ride my weird with me. And you got to get somebody that gets you and willing to ride your weird with me. He's super high.
What is she saying? Ride your weird?
Value to me. Because he allows me to function freely and comfortably in a world that I find quite intimidating.
So could you give us a little bit more insight about long-term relationships? Because we mostly focus on the dating stage, but we have had some of our users request like, okay, once you're in a relationship, especially when it's spanned the decades that yours has spanned, what kinds of advice would you give to women who are in long-term relationships about how to maintain it? What kinds of things... What kind of challenges to look out for? And
get in the habit of going to marriage counseling early. A lot of people go to marriage counseling as the last ditch effort, and the ship is already sinking. They're on the Titanic, suckers broke in half, everybody going down. We all know that.
It's a Hail Mary.
But my husband and I, and this was his idea, he says, let's go to a marriage counselor before we got married. And we went to a marriage counselor. We took a battery of tests. We talked, and then he sat down and talked to us about where we're going to struggle. Based on who I was and based on who he was and based upon our compatibility with the state of marriage, he told us what to look out for. That's one thing. And having done that in the beginning.
Sounds like a new TV show.
Made it easier when we came on rough times to go again. It didn't seem like a horrifying thing. It didn't seem like, oh, I'm saying the relationship's almost over. This is something we do, just like going to get a physical yearly to make sure that our bodies are fine. We make sure our marriage
Just fucking eat some mushrooms together in the woods once a
is
year.
fine. Not yearly, but when things get difficult, we go in and we know. And I know his name was, I'll never forget him, Dr. Willie. And he saved our marriage twice because we would go in. And, after a while, we learned to do it ourselves. But we made a habit of it. That's number one. Number two, you got to learn how to have a conversation. And everybody says communication is key. It is. But you got to learn. There are specific rules about having an effective conversation that you are least likely to obey when you are at home. Because that's where you feel you should be free. You should be able to say what you want to. But if you're going to have a discussion that provides you with clarity and closure and compromise, you have to really understand how to have an effective conversation. And most people don't. Most people come home and emote. And that's where you can't do it. I mean,
honestly, this chick gives pretty good advice.
You have the right to emote and all that kind of stuff. But when you're
I guess she's pretty qualified for his divorce court.
Solve. You got to know there are methods by which to solve that a whole bunch of emotionality will not assist.
Yeah, you have to be strategic in how you go about.
I want to hear this chick, this divorce court chick, listen to all the previous episodes of Female Dating Strategy.
Communicating to get the result that you want.
Yeah.
The best conversations have the most pauses in them because that's where all the thinking happens. And you're not stepping on each other to talk, to get your point across. You are taking in what they said, thinking about it, determining, where you can meet them halfway, and then you come back with something.
That's so interesting. And I also find it interesting that you guys did marriage counseling pretty early on in your relationship. It's I remember that used to be, and I grew up in the church or whatever. So I remember that used to be kind of standard before you got married, is like you would go see like the church counselors or like, and I know with Catholics, they do that too. But it's interesting to see that you guys did that as well, but with like an actual licensed therapist.
Right.
A really good way to kind of really figure out where you guys would both stand on certain issues and how that would affect you down the line. That's really, really great advice. What I'm trying to say is that's really, really great advice. And I find that interesting that seems to be a cultural content.
Yeah. If there's only one thing I could say to stay married, that would be the one thing to do early and continue to do. Makes it easy.
My parents are divorced, and that's what my dad said to me. He's like, well, if you ever get married, make sure to get marriage counseling before you get married and not after. Don't do what I did.
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late, Dad.
Yeah, prevention is always better than cure, right? So,
exactly.
I just wanted to branch off slightly. So here at FDS, we are really, really big on vetting, or as you call it, for example, watching your man. You just keep watching him. How do you think women can continue to watch or vet a man, especially as the relationship becomes more serious? Because it's easy to vet in the beginning when, there's fireworks and you're like, I'm going to go into this with queen energy. But from my experience and the experience of other women, it becomes more difficult the more you get invested into the man and into the relationship. So how can we maintain, the watching him attitude whilst also enjoying the relationship at the same time?
You have to maintain some distance. Stop doing that soulmate search. It's
yes.
filling in those boxes and we're always, I can work with this, I can work over this, and I don't like that, but he's doing this. So all that, be particular. Don't be afraid that he's going to go off. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid that he's going to leave.
Yeah. Easier said than done, ladies.
It's just not. I remember when my husband and I were dating, and he came to pick me up at my office, and he wasn't there. So I wasn't there. So he called me. I was at home, and he says, "Why are you home?" And I said, "Well, you said you were going to pick me up at 5, and by 5:20 you weren't there. So I just went home." And he says, "Well, I'll pick you up there." And I said, "No, I'm not going to go anywhere with you now because it's 5:20. I'm home and taking my stockings off back in the day. And I ain't getting up." He was never late again.
Nice. Yeah, you got to be tough with men. You got to teach them your boundaries early.
But that taught me something that
Yeah, but if it was vice versa and a girl was 20 minutes late and a guy did that and he goes, fuck you, they would be like, this dude's such a piece of shit. Doesn't he know that it takes us longer to get ready? Our hair and our makeup and our nails.
Expressed a need. Timeliness, because I'm a monster on time. I expressed a need and that brother met it. That says a lot. So just don't get too attached too soon, and the more people that you date casually, the less likely that you are to do that. Not only because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, it also allows you to compare and contrast. this one guy,
Judge Lynn's into the scrotation.
might be a great conversationalist, but another guy, you know what I mean? So you can decide what you need more of and what you want more of, because the perfect guy for me might be a guy to drive you crazy. So there are no set things to look for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm really glad you say that, because again, we are a huge fan. We did an episode on rotational dating a few weeks ago. We are a huge fan of that. Just keeping a rotation of men, at least in the early stages, just so.
And can I say this, as women, we kind of don't use our power well. If we were, I remember I said on the show once a long time ago, wouldn't it be wonderful if we just had a no nookie Tuesday? And women were just saying, we ain't giving it up on Tuesday. Every woman in the world don't give it up on a Tuesday. and
That's fine, because we're all watching and listening to Low Value Mail on Tuesday. We don't need your nookie, ladies.
And first of all, you can see how okay it is to do without it, and just to how much they want to have sex with us is a powerful thing. And if we don't,
I'll say I disagree. The moment you start being like, oh, we're going to start trading sex like it's a product and a negotiating chip, I think that's a bad idea.
If we remove ourselves from the chase and sit and let them chase, and we all do that, then we'll all have to up their game. Do you understand what I'm saying? But
yes.
we have to not be in competition with each other, so we can establish a floor for people to meet.
And the thing is, when women do the chasing or they don't put these boundaries, they end up compromising too much and being unhappy. And that becomes a race to the bottom with what women are willing to do to keep a man. But I would think the point of a relationship is to be happy most of the time, or feel like it's fulfilling you most of the time, rather than just having a man around.
Right.
It sort of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I've had a number of women on the show. He cheats, he runs around, he doesn't work, he doesn't cook, he doesn't clean, and he won't marry me. And I said, why are you seeking to be attached long term to a guy that makes you miserable? And it's such an unexamined desire on our part to marry, just to be married. And I know I like being married. I love being married. It is a very good state of being for me. But I had to marry somebody that would make my life better, not simply tolerate somebody so I won't be alone.
Yeah, all these women that are like, yeah, my husband cheats on me and he does this and this and this horrible thing, but he's like the best person ever and I love him so much and I want to marry him. I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And marrying them don't make it better. It makes it worse, because they know you're stuck.
Exactly. Why do you want to marry someone like that?
I mean, I think there's also that element of, women have been, sold the idea that if you struggle for a man, eventually on some unspecified day in the future that it will pay off and he will treat you like a queen. Because I remember seeing the woman you described on the show, and you could tell that the reason why they were hanging on for dear life onto this no good man was because they hoped that one day he would just transform into a prince. And obviously that day would never come. But no. I think there's also that aspect as well.
You would think people would reciprocate with, if you're uber good to them, that they would reciprocate that way. But often what happens is, if you're uber good to somebody, I don't know what it is in human nature, and it's not just men, it's everybody, they presume that they're entitled to it and want more and more and more, as opposed to being grateful for having it and giving in return.
Yes, so value yourselves, ladies. So another question we had, since you have 6 sons, we've been asking this question of a lot of our guests because...
Marry, fuck, kill.
We do not have children, and also we've never been boys.
And they're never going to have children at this rate.
What kinds of character traits do you try to instill in your sons, and what kinds of things do you think influenced your sons to be good partners, and what kinds of things should we even look for?
I think a lot of it was having a father in the home that was very dedicated to the proposition of treating his woman right. I mean, we didn't get along for a while there, those 3 years and everything. But at the end of the day, we never took it outside the house. We weren't on the internet. We didn't do a lot of things. And I think, and they saw, even when we didn't get along, he protected and defended me. And I think they see that as primary. And it was interesting. It's just a matter of culture. Like, I remember one time I took my son, he was like 8 or 9, to a specialist doctor for something. And the doctor was a dude. And my son looked at me and he said, he can't be a doctor. He's a guy.
Shut the fuck up.
Because my sister's a doctor. My gynecologist is a doctor. His pediatrician was a doctor. And they were all women. So he thought only women were doctors. Do you know what I mean? Because it never occurred to me, but my gynecologist was a woman. My gynecologist was a woman. My sister's a doctor. His auntie was a doctor. And his doctor was a woman. So he thought that, and women take care of you. When I'm at home, when he's sick, I was the one taking care of him. So he thought that's what women did. and it wasn't a judge. It wasn't a male job. But so it's about how they are raised. I think that a lot of it they learn from watching their father. They really, really do. It's very important. They don't want to hear you talk to them at all. Every time I open my mouth, everybody running from the nearest available exit. They're just how they are, and they're your kids. They don't want to hear from you, but they watch everything that goes on. And I think it makes a difference when they have a good example. And when I think the women friends that I have are very professional, and we live in a very married community, and I don't know. They just learned from their father. And I remember the first time when my youngest turned 21, he went to a strip club. And I tend not to be, what do I call it? I tend not to be judgmental. I tend to let them do what they want.
She's a judge. She's literally a judge. She tends not to be judgmental. It's in her title. Judge.
To see where they go with it. And I said, so what'd you think? He said, got to tell you, Mom was a little rapey. And I said, okay. And then I left the room and yes, I did my job. He thought it was rapey.
So amazing, yeah.
By the way, I don't know what this next episode's like, but I feel like the next episode is going to be a massive course correction to this.
You couldn't tell me nothing that day because I had done it. And so I attribute all of that mostly to my husband. And I always thought I was a liberal mother, but I told that to my oldest once, and he said, who are you talking about? Everybody, even our friends, knew not to mess with you. So I was strong but fun. And my husband was dedicated to the proposition, and they watched the right show.
Good point. She is a TV judge, but I looked her up. She is a real lawyer.
It's really interesting, actually, that you mentioned the strip club analogy with your son, because a few weeks ago we had Dr. Gail Dines on the show, and she also has a son as well, and he had a very, very similar experience.
His was bullshit. Even my girlfriend was like, what the fuck? When she went to he's like, I don't want to go to the strip club with you people.
A strip club that she shared with us as well. So I don't know if asking a guy's opinion on strip clubs is a good vetting strategy. It seems like the good ones,
right?
Just seems like the good ones are rightfully repulsed by it.
Just a little uncomfortable with the entire scene. And I never really, was like, this is this. But his father was very important. Have old school values about how you treat a woman. Like whenever he would leave town and I would be home alone, ever since my kids were 3 and 4, he would say, look after your mother while I'm gone. And when my son turned 16, he goes, look after your mother while I'm gone. And he turned around and said, Dad, what does that mean? I can't tell her what to do. I'm not in charge. So what does it mean? Look after her while I'm gone. He says, remember what I told you, and left. And when he left, I decided to paint the wall. And the wall was like 2 stories tall. So I get this paint and my son comes out and says, what are you doing? And he says, I said, well, I'm going to paint it. And he said, no, you're not. I'll do it. And he got up on the ladder and he painted the thing. And then he got down and I said, and that is what your father was talking about. He wanted his wife returned to him in the same condition he left her. And it was my son's job to make sure I didn't fall, break nothing, get hurt, get scared. And that's what he taught him.
That's so beautiful.
I like my husband.
I like your husband too. I've never met him.
I like my husband.
We had a rocky morning, but I like him.
These chicks are gaining nothing from this conversation. They think they are, but they're like, yeah, but this is not how we want to treat men.
Is your son single by any chance? Would you like a British girlfriend?
No.
Actually.
I mean, are you going to ship him to the UK?
I can travel. It's fine. I like travel.
A little desperate pick me energy there, Savannah Much.
One that's 29 and I got one that's 26. Neither one of them has a girlfriend.
You hear that, ladies?
Because they be fucking
single.
I can't wait for them to find the right woman. I cannot wait. The babies.
If any of her kids brought home any of these FDS chicks, she'd be like, no.
It's very monogamous. So, but he wants to find the right one. But once I remember he was dating this girl longest time. And then there was a gorgeous woman walking across. I mean, just gorgeous. And I was like, wow. And he said, yeah, it's a shame. All women are so pretty. And I said, well.
All women are so pretty?
Why is it a shame? He said, I'm taken. Like,
Yeah.
I'm taken. I don't look at other women because,
Aw.
I'm taken. That's what that is. If I got a girlfriend, I don't mess up.
See, that's one of the main differences between like a high value man and a low value man. The low value man would say it's natural for men to stare at other women.
It's biology for me to want to cheat on my girlfriend.
Right.
It's
Right.
biology.
Right.
I'm just looking. I'm not doing anything. But he, was respectful. He acknowledged that she was beautiful. But that was it. He wasn't.
But that was it. It was just like,
that was it.
I'm taken. I got my lady. So,
Yeah, again, this is just like what the kid tells his mom.
I don't know. I don't know how they got that. I just think they got that way watching their father. I don't really know. My oldest, married 2 kids. Second one, not. Third one, with the same girl since he was 14 and she was 15. And they're in their mid 40s. And then the 2 babies, 26 and 29, unmarried.
So another question I had to go along with that is, do you think there's a massive difference for women who are dating who are above 40? Because our audience is mostly young, but we do occasionally get questions from women who are a little bit older about how to apply the strategies when I think dynamics change. People have kids,
right.
Or a lot more people are married if you're over 40.
Right.
What advice would you have for women over a certain age?
I'm not really sure. To be perfectly frank, because I never dated out of my 20s, and I don't really know.
Fair.
And I don't trust people who have an answer to everything. So I don't really know.
This chick is smart.
I don't really know. Everything's so different now than when us older women, well, I'm in my 60s, so it doesn't really, I'm really outdated, but
Yeah, there's the recurring joke or meme or idea or whatever that the older you get, the lower your standards have to be or something like that. Like when you're in your 20s, you can make all these demands of men, and then there's a lot of memes, pictures going around oh, once you're 30, you're willing to settle for a guy who's got
Yes, literally that's just what happens.
some convictions or
You're settling compared to your previous self. You're not necessarily settling in the grand scheme of things, but you're settling based on your previous requirements.
this and this and all these flaws and stuff. And
what's up, JJ?
I think that's true. I think regardless of age, you should always have high standards.
my sister, I will tell you, she used to date, and then she got more and more picky. And she, as she got busier and her bank account went up, the less she was willing to put up with.
Yeah, you should get more picky as you get older, not less. Exactly.
Yep. She just wasn't willing to put up with anything.
Plus, I think,
And does she have somebody?
you know what you like, and you have your life settled in a way that you like, you're more confident about leaving things behind that don't serve you.
Yeah. And we really need to have my parents never talked to my sister and I ever about what you look for in a guy or what you look for in marriage. All they talked about was which college we were going to, what kind of businesses we were going to run. He started investment accounts for us when we were teenagers. And it was about being fully actualized individuals. Because when you're a fully actualized individual, the love piece is only a piece of you and it's not definitive. It makes men optional and not definitional. And I think you work from a place of power and strength when you do that. And you also date with a sense of I'm okay without desperation. And you have so many other things, so many other layers that are doing well or not doing well, that a man is just a piece of it,
Yes, absolutely. So I think we are just about wrapped up. I think I wanted to close out with asking you what your most memorable divorce court case was, just because we're messy and we're curious.
What was the craziest moment?
Well, if we're messy, now one of my favorites was the one about what 20 is for. So we're fine dudes that don't act right. That was clearly one of my favorites. And I had another favorite where a guy in there was bipolar, and I was telling him about being crazy and how to handle your crazy. And Tisdale versus Johnson, where this was a black woman who had that angry black woman syndrome, quote unquote, above her head. That's what her man was calling her. And we came to terms about her fears because she was afraid. And by the end of the show, she cried. And I loved that one, but it wasn't messy. Do you want messy?
Well, I think it's good to show women just, working through their issues. We do talk about that on here too. Not just about
women don't have issues. They're perfect queens. I don't know what you're talking about there. So
men and all their issues, but helping you to bring yourself to a place of centeredness and happiness so that you can be, the right person for the right person.
Right. And it's not going to be perfect, but you shouldn't tolerate, if they're spewing nothing but dark in your direction, you do not need that.
I mean, I can remember watching a divorce court compilation of like the worst excuses like given like when men cheat. That was one. He was like, "It was an accident. I cheated." And your face was like, "No, I slipped into her vagina."
Yeah, I was in bed with her, but nothing was going on. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how she got there.
I have one last question, actually. Judge Lynn, what are some ways that, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Betty Broderick case, but I'm really into like true crime recently. And I don't know if you watch the show on Netflix, but the whole time watching it, it's so painful because I'm like, sis, this is not how you divorce a man and come out on top. Like, what are some common mistakes?
Have you seen the interviews? I'm immersed in Betty Broderick. Yes. I just, have you seen her interviews with Oprah in prison?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm going to
go on YouTube and look that up. That woman is so sick that even in jail, she thinks she did the right thing. She cannot admit to anything going wrong.
What'd she do?
She doesn't talk to her children because she's still fanatical about that. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, I think the most upsetting thing about that case is like she essentially left her kids orphans because then she's in jail. The breadwinner Dan is dead. But the whole time I'm looking at that case through the analysis of like, okay, once you realize that something's up, your husband's cheating on you, that's when you need to find a lawyer. That's when you need to get 2 steps ahead. Because the interesting thing to me is how he finessed the divorce such that she would get like nothing financially and essentially maximized his own benefit. And she went about it like in all the wrong ways, like not getting a lawyer for herself, dragging her feet, leaving the voicemail, like the crazy voicemails and, vandalism of his property and stuff. And I'm like, sis, all of these things are things he's going to be using against you. Like, this is not strategic, right? So what are some of like the more,
not strategic. She murdered her ex-husband.
It's an extreme case, but what are some of the more common mistakes that a lot of women make when divorcing where they end up screwing themselves over, and how can women make better choices there?
I think it's important to understand why she did that. She did that because she was raised in a culture where she was defined by who she was married to. She was Mrs. Broderick, and her whole life was defined that. So she had no desire to get money or to get ahead of things. Her whole being.
She didn't want to get divorced. Yeah.
No, she did not want to get a divorce. She wanted to fix it. And other men in that culture, they have affairs, and you get past it, and you stay. And you get past it. She thought that's what's going to happen. And since that defined who she was as a person, she could not let it go.
Yeah, so that's what happened. Learn there is like, don't define yourself based on you have to be willing to walk away, because if you're in that situation where, and that's the thing that's so fascinating about it, is because, he's cheating on you, he's doing all these things. Why do you want to still be with that guy? Right. And yes, she was raised that way. But, if you're sensing something's wrong, that's when you gotta be willing to walk away as a woman. Like if your husband is being, a cheater, or is like treating you badly, or, controlling you or whatever, you gotta get ahead.
Yeah, you gotta go in strong. You gotta go in strong. Yeah,
you can't be like, pick me. No,
pick me. Oh my God, I made it.
I mean, that is actually a very good point in terms of like a general leverage in the relationship, where if you are the pick me, then you're already playing from a position of weakness.
No, it's not like that.
Betty Broderick is an extreme case though, but what are some like common mistakes that women, not lawyering up is probably one of them, but what are some mistakes that women make when divorcing? How do they
listening to female dating strategy?
How can we remedy that?
Well, they make a mistake during marriage if they are not well acquainted with the financial circumstances of the home. Sometimes, especially if the male is the primary breadwinner, they allow that financial piece to be completely on his table, and so you don't know what to look for. You have to go find a forensic accountant or something to find that money, because you don't know what's going on. Another thing is, don't fight over the sentimental stuff. This was a business. Divorcing is the end of a relationship, but getting a divorce is a business transaction. And if you get how you feel confused with the money that you need, you're going to fight over all the wrong things.
Yeah. Like she was fighting over the china and
Yeah. Sentimental because it meant something. And how could he? This is when and blah, blah, blah. That's not it. It's business. You got to remember it's business.
You got to be ruthless.
You can't
get caught up in your feelings, for sure.
This is a bit accidentally for the boys.
Call the attorney. He did $500 an hour for him to hear your angst. Don't do it. That's for girlfriends.
And you can't take any of that stuff with you. I mean, you could get all that china and then just drop it on your way into your house. I mean, it's one of those things.
Yeah. It's not that important, but you get confused when you're in it, because you just cannot believe he would do it or she would do it, So you get emotional about
how dare he want the china,
and then you start doing dumb things.
Is there any just, general final words of wisdom that you'd like to give to our listeners? Judge Lynn.
If you're a young lady, just be a fully actualized individual. Don't make sure that your intellectual life is very busy and puts you in a whole lot of different pools of people so you can be in different circumstances and cultures and everything. You meet a whole bunch of different kinds of guys, and don't just, and the whole thing is to live as much of life as you can. And so don't laser focus on any one particular aspect of your life to the detriment of all others. You are a fully actualized individual with a whole lot of depth and interests. And if you're not, it's your job to become that.
Words of wisdom. Thank you.
Judge Lynn Toler, everybody.
Thank you. I had a ball, ladies. You have a wonderful evening.
Nice.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
And that's our show. Please check out our website at the
Okay, that was episode 22 of the Female Dating Strategy. Threw us for a bit of a loop because everybody in the chat is like, yeah, this chick's pretty based. Pretty good advice. Yeah, so Judge Lynn Toler from Divorce Court. It's not I guess she's not a real judge, but she seems to know what is up and gave some pretty good advice. Honestly, mostly the opposite advice these girls ever want to hear / give out. So let's see if the next episode 23, is going to be a massive course correction. We have 89 people. We have 81 likes, another 19 likes, and I will give away a channel membership. So let's get us 19 more likes, and let's get on to episode 23 of the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, examining communication dynamics between men and women. This already sounds boring. So let's see. Maybe it's
Before we get started, I just want to make a brief announcement about the state of the pod. We've been getting tons of amazing feedback from women, and it's become very clear to us that real physical books and so on. And as a reward to our patrons for helping achieve this target, we will commit to posting more bonus content. So come. Thank you.
What's up, queens? Welcome to the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Ro.
And this is Savannah.
And I'm Lilith.
And today, we're going to discuss the biggest mistakes women make when trying to communicate with men.
Yeah, so in this episode, we're going to tackle just communicate.
The old just communicate.
The good old Reddit advice.
Hold on a second, please. It's freezing in the old studio here.
It's not even just Reddit, to be fair. It's literally all of women's magazines. Just communicate with your partner about, honestly, like anything from cannibalism.
I found child porn on my boyfriend's computer. Oh, just communicate with him.
Yeah, anything from cannibalism to he left the milk out, right? The answer is always to just communicate, which is actually insane, as we've discussed before in a lot of scenarios. So we're going to talk about why just communicate as a strategy is often really, really ineffective.
Yeah, I feel like women have been lied to about...
I mean, yeah, obviously communicate. You can't communicate your way if you find out that your fucking husband is killing drifters in the basement. It's not a communication issue.
You know, how to communicate with men. Like the concept just communicate, you imagine, say you have a problem with your boyfriend and you think to yourself, oh, I'm just going to sit down with him and we'll have a heartfelt conversation about why this bothers me. And then he'll listen and then he'll care and then he'll change his behavior accordingly, right? That's not how it fucking works.
High value men will. We should actually preface that to
Shout out to all the
most high value men will make an effort to change if you communicate things with them earnestly. But even in those scenarios, there's just some marked differences between how men and women communicate with each other, communicate with members of their own sex, and massive differences in the way that we're socialized that make the communication between men and women difficult.
Yeah, I'd say even high value men sometimes can fall into these traps where, I mean, it depends how you're communicating, right? Because sometimes when you're communicating and you're just like emoting, but you go into that conversation without...
They stole that. They already took that from the last episode. She said about emoting, and now that's just right in the toolbox, huh, ladies?
You're still not going to be able to get your point across as effectively as if you did go into it with a strategy, and that's even with a high-value man. Simply because, men and women have not received the same socialization. Even if he's a generally decent guy, he's still received male socialization. And also, like, the society that we live in, the risks and rewards and the consequences for doing things or not doing certain things are different for men and women. And that's why I think, like, women and men, when they're communicating with one another, just end up sort of like talking at each other, but don't really understand each other, or underlying behavior ends up not changing.
Yeah, soft skills are a thing you can spend a lifetime learning because it's just a matter of putting yourself in a lot of different situations with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. Sex differences are the most talked about and seemingly sometimes the most...
So it turns out I'm wearing a green sweater which doesn't do well with the green screen. Whoops, whatever.
Unsolvable. We're going to at least attempt
Too
to
cold.
discuss why sometimes the tactics that women try when trying to communicate with men so often fall flat, and why so much of the mainstream advice about just communicate as this being this catch-all for relationship problems more or less won't work.
Yeah, I mean, the women's magazines will be like, oh, just communicate. And if she's like, I did communicate. And like, oh, but did you communicate the right way? You have to say it the right tone of voice. You don't want to, say it in a way that's going to get him defensive, or you don't want to do this, or you want to do that. And
it can come across victim blaming, right? It can come across like, oh, well, you're responsible for
Whoa,
his behavior.
we do not tolerate victim blaming here on Low Value Male Covers, the Female Dating Strategy podcast.
You didn't communicate the right way.
so in this episode, we're just going to go into some of my theories, why I think that communication between men and women often falls flat, some of the male-female communication dynamics. We're going to talk about some of the common mistakes that women make when dealing with men and offer some more effective solutions. And some of this will apply to both men and women, like all humans. Some will apply to both high-value men and low-value men. Some will only be true for low-value men. So let's get into it. I want to start off by saying all humans, both male and female, are motivated by two things: fear of loss and desire for gain. Fear of loss and desire for gain is something that I learned as part of my sales training. And one of the things you learn in sales is that when you're talking to customers, it's not enough to just be really friendly and nice to them. People aren't going to buy something from you because you're a nice person or because they feel bad for you if they don't buy it. People are motivated by generally self-interest, and that doesn't make them a bad person or anything. Like, all humans are motivated by self-interest. And those two main things are fear of loss and desire for gain. That's just something like
This is fucking boring. What you're doing, we're talking like sales tactics
all
now?
instinctually sort of like programmed to care about.
This is
and even, people think like, oh, but what about altruism? What about doing the right thing? That kind of stuff. And generally speaking, like, altruism is not that motivating. People are not that motivated by altruism. And they'll only do altruistic things if the loss is
Female Dating Strategy is literally making me fade away.
low, or there's something to gain from it.
And then we get so much performative altruism, right?
Yeah. Like, Coca-Cola doesn't really give a shit about polar bears. They're only doing it for the tax breaks and for the marketing.
What?
Okay, like,
and just about everybody on Twitter with a blue check is motivated by performative altruism, where it's like it's the perceived social gain, right?
yeah, and people think that, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think we need to really like sort of destigmatize the reality. People will say, oh, that's so cynical that people are motivated by self-interest. Yeah, like that's just how it is, right? Like, that doesn't make you a bad person. It's just what is the reality of being a person. But anyways, the thing is, though, like, because of gender roles and because men and women are socialized differently, fear of loss and desire for gain play out differently in men versus...
You know what? So I noticed this now, that some episodes, I guess they prepare and they like... This one chick, I guess this is Lilith, she like writes essays. You could tell she's reading it, right? Like, she's not talking. Yeah, I'm going to try and get Karen on here. I'm going to try and get some people to come start having guests on Female Dating Strategy, because this shit's wearing me down by myself.
Women. I find that men are generally permitted to be more selfish than women. They're not punished for it, and so there's no fear of loss.
She's reading this.
And in fact, generally, they are rewarded for it. So men on average have more to gain from being selfish than women. Whereas women, we're raised to be endlessly self-sacrificial and to put other people's needs before our own. And from a very young age, girls are pretty much bullied out of our natural self-preservation instincts, right? We're punished much more.
Or maybe part of your self-preservation instincts are getting a man that can help protect you to help you with your self-preservation.
Harshly for quote unquote selfish behavior. So women have more to lose from being selfish, and we're praised when we're selfless and show empathy. And so as we grow up, women, because we've been taught that being selfless and being giving and generous is a good thing, we grow up thinking that we will be continuously rewarded for selfless behavior. And then we end up in relationships with men, and this could not be further from the truth.
Maybe that's the thing you're providing, is being selfless. And then, look, tons of guys are selfless in
Mistake number one
too,
is appealing to a man's empathy or morality. And so an example of that would be like, please stop doing this because it hurts my feelings, or please stop doing this because it's wrong, or something like that. And basically it's a mistake because men have just not been socialized to feel empathy for women.
Well,
what? Now they're back on their bullshit. See, I said this, that new episode, and they're already like, if the fucking Judge Lynn Toler, she'd be like, what are you talking about? All my 6 sons, super empathetic, and my husband's dead, man.
I think I want to almost say, like, it's not that they're completely devoid of empathy for women. It's just that things that bother us are not perceived as something they feel obligated to participate in a solution for, right? There's just this mentality with men, especially how men communicate with other men. It's like every man for himself. So when women need things or women want things, especially relationship wise, I think a lot of them just have this blank space where they can't fill in the reason why, right?
Yeah, they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, they just don't.
And back to our regularly scheduled program of shitting on guys.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what are some examples of my own relationships. Honestly, some of them are so embarrassing to talk about. Like, you know, women often find ourselves like begging for a text back or begging for basic human decency and like good treatment and stuff. And like men, they just don't asking them to do it because it's something that you want or it would make you happy. Like, first of all, low value man just isn't going to care about making you happy. So if you know he's low value, like that's when it's time to move on.
Honestly, you know what must be the best relationship is just two low value people together. That must be some of the best relationships out there. Because two high value people, that just must be like a lot of work and just nobody's ever happy. But two low, it's like lowered expectations from Mad TV. You're just two low value people and you're just loving life.
But it's also important to remember that men and women are just held to a very different standard of morality. Like women are expected to
make other people comfortable. I don't think men worry about whether other people are comfortable, right?
Exactly.
In fact, yeah. Whereas women,
I do.
It's more of a knee-jerk reaction for us to look at the betterment of the group and instead of just ourselves. Whereas for men, you know, as long as someone's not dying, there's not necessarily a reason for them to go out of their way to like scan and make sure everyone is okay and everyone's feeling good. It's just not necessarily in their socialization.
Exactly, right? Like, and you see this all the time. Like men know to appeal to a woman's empathy. And I see men do this all the time. And they're like, what about men's mental health? And what about this? Like, you know, when women are saying, you know, oh, we're afraid of men because some men are rapists and stuff, men are like, oh, but not all men. And it makes us feel bad when women think that some of us could be rapists and stuff. And then women are like, oh, like you poor baby, like, you know, acting like he's a wounded bird or something like that.
Notice how they don't do anything that might cost them anything to make men as a group look less like rapists, right?
What do you want to do? Vigilantes where we go hunt down rapists? Is that what you want us to do? Should we go hunt them down like the dogs that they are and just put them down? Because I think we like living in a society without vigilantism.
Want to do anything to change that. They just want you to not believe that.
Yeah, like they just want, it's all purely about like their ego, right? Basically, like, you know, men know to manipulate women's empathy because they know that we have it.
Oh, we want to talk about manipulating, huh?
When women try to manipulate a man's empathy, it just doesn't work because there's no empathy to manipulate. You know, you could manipulate his ego or his stupidity or something else like that, but there's just, you know, it's like getting blood out of a stone. It's just, they just don't have it, right? They just don't see it the same way that we do. I do want to say, side note, like be very careful, even though I say, generally speaking, men don't feel empathy for women, I will say be very careful about men who seem too empathetic. You know, empathy is a good quality, but I've also met a lot of these like...
so you're not empathetic enough, too empathetic. Okay, you're literally making me waste away.
Boy types that are very good at performing empathy, or, you know, you'll have a conversation with him about your feelings and he'll be like, oh, totally. I'm so glad we can have this open conversation and talk about each other's needs and stuff, but then nothing changes. Right. Or he'll change for like a week or two and his behavior goes right back to normal. Yeah. So some guys will like perform empathy just because they think that that's what you want to hear. But they won't actually change because they have no incentive to. And that's really what it comes down to. Men are just not socialized to try and make women comfortable. Part of it is because there's just no incentive for them to do it. And there's no consequences for them not doing it. Socially, men have nothing to lose by not having empathy for women. In fact, to have empathy for women for a lot of men is a loss. For a man to have empathy for women would be doing...
and now, so I don't know if you can hear this on your end, but they're editing this together. So she wrote an essay, and then it probably was like fucking 4 hours. So they're like, we got to edit this shit down. So now it's all edited and...
acknowledge their part in male violence.
Nobody's allowed to talk anymore. It's just this one chick with a stupid essay.
And that would involve a loss of dominance or a loss of control, loss of privileges.
Congrats,
when
everybody.
Men show empathy to women, they are seen as a simp or pussy whipped or white knighting and so on. So to actually feel empathy for women is a loss.
Simping and empathy are not even remotely close to the same things.
For a lot of men.
And I think an important point to make in this section is that when women try to appeal to a man's morality in the Just Communicate saga, it's overlooking the fact that a lot of men know that they're behaving in a shitty way, because if you treated them the same way they're treating you, they would not like it at all. So there's a sense of almost
entitlement,
yeah, and superiority, in that they feel that they can treat you in a particular way, but then when the boot's on the other foot, they wouldn't like it and they wouldn't stand for it. So it's not that they don't know that what's right and wrong and how to treat and how to speak to people. It's just that they feel entitled to treat you badly and to get away with it.
I think they just perceive it as like necessary double.
I will say one thing. I don't know if this is a trend, but if it is, I will be so much happier. But these 2 episodes are both under an hour, which is amazing because some of them have been like an hour and 15 minutes.
Standards too, right? Because I remember
they see it as their right.
Yeah, I remember reading a self like an essay from a guy who had grown up in a very patriarchal type culture. I think he was like a Southern Baptist type guy.
Do we skip this? What are we thinking here? Do we want to skip this? Tizan Manthropology wants to know when the tits are coming in the mail. They're actually right beside me right now.
And him talking about how certain aspects of their culture
Should we
that was
skip?
passed
Do we
down
wanna
to him,
skip?
he just
All right, I'm putting up a poll. Let the people decide.
accepted without thinking about it. It was something that was just the way it was. And so for a lot of men, if they're not making a concerted effort to unlearn some of the messaging they get about how women think and feel, women's place in society, who they should be in relation to women, then they won't, right? It won't occur to them that these things are wrong. It won't occur to them that women have a problem with it. And then when they see women that do have a problem with it, there's always a quick and easy way to just credit her, right? She's a slut. She's a bitter old post-wall spinster, right? There's very, very easy ways to take someone's behavior or perceived behavior and then use that to discredit the validity of their argument. And that's not just done between men and women. That's done on
the
so many
people
different-
have spoken, and let me tell you, there's nothing I like more than skipping an episode, because the sooner we skip, or the more we skip, the more we get to the promised land of catching up, and then maybe one day being myself on the female dating strategy. So 84% of people said skip it, which means that we skip. So on to episode 24 of the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, pre-sex sexual
Before we
compatibility
get started,
test,
I just want to make a brief announcement about the state of the pod.
plus birthday Sadboy. And as you notice, things can't be going that great for the Female Dating Strategy Podcast because there's been no roast of Scrotes.
And as a reward to our patrons for helping achieve this target, we will commit to posting more bonus content. So if you like...
I'll give you money to not post more content. How does that sound, Female Dating Strategy Podcast? Also follow me, patreon.com/lowvaluemail.
So for this week's Roast to Scrote, we have a message from...
I spoke too soon. Huh? Isn't that funny how that works? I jinxed it. I said, there hasn't been a roast of Scrote. Boom, I'm the
even greater things
Scrote,
to
and
come.
I'm getting
Thank you.
roasted.
So for this week's Roast to Scrote, we have a message from Jennifer. And she starts off saying, this Roast to Scrote is about my just dumped negative value male ex of 1 year. I refer to him as my ex, as he is now, but at this time he was my boyfriend, and we'd been planning a life together. A few background points that are important to this story. I share custody of my 4-year-old and have to keep this rotating schedule in mind. When I wasn't with my son or at work, I was with my ex. Trying to plan around these schedules was very confusing and exhausting at times. I had planned a lunch with a former boss and had already canceled once because my ex was insecure about me going out to lunch with my former male boss, whose wife just died in the past year, is a former boss, and I was also offended that he was thinking I'd be cheating on him with this dude. So
the guy is single now.
I ended up coordinating a lunch between me, my former male boss, and my former female boss, as we all used to work together. My ex was even making me think that the male boss was going to make a move on me, which was ridiculous.
So this is one of those times where
That's the type of jealousy you hear from women.
highly suspicious that this is the way that he operates at work, because again, so many times when men make a comment like that, it's a reflection of their own behavior or their own thought process, because normal people don't think, oh, she's going to work with her boss, she's probably fucking them, or that the boss is going to try to fuck her. Like, definitely, especially not in today's climate, but that's how low value men think. They think everyone's like them.
They project their negative qualities onto other people.
Women project too.
So they think, oh, well, I try to prey on women at work, so this guy's clearly going to be preying on my girlfriend at work. It's like when guys deny the existence of male violence, but then they have a daughter, and then they're like telling her that she needs to be careful. You know, guys will tell other women, not all men, but then to their daughters, they'll say all men. That kind of shit. Yeah.
It's the double speak.
Yeah, they don't literally, when they say not all men, they say like, hey, I'm not a violent rapist. Please do not punish me for the sins of other men. But then, yes, and then they'll have a daughter and say, hey, just so you know, some men you need to watch out for.
Scrote double speak. Okay, back to the story. After I solidified the plans, keeping in mind my own schedules to keep, what days I was free, what days I usually spend with my ex, etc., I realized that I had scheduled the lunch on my ex's birthday, which was a Sunday, usually my day to myself. I felt terrible, but I also knew that we'd be spending the entire weekend together. I usually go to his place after work on Friday and stay until Sunday morning, then go home and do my chores. Okay. We also had plans that Sunday night to celebrate his birthday. I figured he'd be okay with it, with me being out for a few hours of the day. Otherwise, I'd have to reschedule the lunch for another 2 weeks out. I told him about it in person, and I was feeling anxious because I thought he'd be upset, but he wasn't. Okay, that's
See, that's always a red flag. Yeah, you shouldn't feel anxious to talk to him about, your work schedule, essentially.
Yeah. I've been in relationships like that where I knew that telling him certain things would make him fly off the handle, and those relationships were always emotionally abusive. So if you have that, ladies for listening in, if you have that anxiety about telling something to your boyfriend or husband, run.
That's a red flag.
That's a red flag. There's something wrong with him.
You should be able to speak honestly with a person.
Without having your fight or flight reflexes going off. Yeah. Anyways, so he said it was totally fine, and we had the rest of the weekend as well as our plans on Sunday night. I felt relieved that he wasn't upset at all. That's also, if you feel relief that he didn't blow up at you, that's a red flag. Okay.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I landed a new job, a life-changing position. I was so happy. I signed my offer letter Friday before my ex's birthday, so that night we were going to celebrate. I told him I didn't want to feel like I was taking the spotlight from his birthday, and he said, "Babe, my birthday comes every year. Your new job is a big deal." Okay. I gave him presents.
Sounds pretty high value.
Good reaction, yeah. So I gave him presents, and he loved all three. A framed commissioned watercolor painting of his 2 dogs. Girl, that is so... Is this guy your husband? Like that first gift is like really extra. But anyways, a couple other thoughtful things that he really enjoyed. Overall, he was very pleased with his gifts, and we spent the night drinking and celebrating and enjoying each other's company until the early hours of the morning. I just want to pull over real quick and like complain about the fact that women, I find, often get these really amazing, thoughtful gifts for men, and the man will, when it comes her birthday, he'll just get like some flowers or some chocolates or
chicks love flowers. I don't know.
Something that's not as thoughtful. So like ladies, we spend so much effort getting gifts for guys. It's like bullshit.
Yeah.
For guys who don't even for men who would not even show us the same courtesy. Anyways, the next day we spent together, but just a normal chill day. I stayed the night again, but barely slept because his little dogs kept barking in the middle of the night and jumping all over me in bed, which they
Wait, is this about JJ? Because JJ has little dogs.
Usually do. Side note, he told me his dogs are too stupid to train properly.
Sounds like JJ.
Sunday morning, after giving him a sexy birthday treat.
Penis-shaped cookies or...
I'm like, what's the sexy birthday treat? Anyways.
I'm getting very confused.
Yeah.
It's a blowjob.
Vagina cupcakes.
Yeah, I'm like, my imagination is running wild. Anyways.
See, that's the problem with these chicks is you think a sexy birthday treat is literally like giving a dude vagina cupcakes, which is that he's at some fucking sort of like feminist meeting or something. She doesn't want that.
Oh, like a sexy lingerie? Anyways, he left with enough time to head home to change for my lunch, make a birthday post on Instagram, and then make it to the restaurant. It was a 30-minute drive from my place, and my place was... also a 30-minute drive from my ex's place. I didn't realize I had to factor in so much travel time. The lunch was nice, and my ex even went out with some friends for lunch while I was gone. I drove back to my place, quickly got changed into fancy clothes for my ex's nice birthday dinner we were going to. I arrived at his place just before we were to leave for dinner, which is about an hour away. I was gone for 5 or so hours, longer than I had anticipated originally due to how much driving I had to do. We had a fabulous, delicious 12-course sushi dinner. 12-course sushi dinner? That sounds bomb.
My mouth is watering.
Called omakase.
I actually could I'm hungry.
I could go for some sushi now.
I could go for
Savannah, anything?
some sushi.
Yeah, 100%.
Sushi feast.
Then went to an art exhibit afterwards. The dinner was incredible. The exhibit was okay, but still neat. By the time we got back to his place, it was well past 10 p.m. I had to work the next day, so I went...
By the way, people don't understand. This is a roaster Scrote. Someone sent in this message about a Scrote they dated, and now these girls are going to roast
home
them.
to get enough
Oh, fuck. This episode's an hour and 22 minutes.
sleep. After being sleep deprived all weekend from drinking, making love, and inconsiderate dogs, I just wanted to be alone in my own bed. The next day, I get messages from my ex saying he's upset, he's sad, etc. This is nothing new. Anytime we spend a nice time together, he'd immediately spiral into loneliness and sadness when I left. Ugh.
That's
This
weird.
just sounds controlling.
Yeah,
Controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's... I guess too. I looked at it like he's got some kind of emotional issue, but yeah, no. The other way to look at that is he's trying to emotionally manipulate her.
When a guy like punishes you for not being around him, like, here I'm just reading ahead in the story. It gets worse. So he was upset that I quote bailed on him on his birthday. What is he talking about? They had the dinner together. Like,
yeah, what was the
they had sex the night before. That's not bailing. Like,
right.
Anyways, he was mad that I was gone so long. He didn't feel like we were celebrating his birthday. Sunday felt like he just took me on a nice date. Never mind the presents, the toast for me during his birthday dinner, the birthday Instagram post I made, the entire Friday night we spent partying together and me wishing him a happy birthday with his dick in my mouth the morning of his birthday. Okay, that's what the sexy birthday gift was. Okay.
Yeah, the fact that these chicks, honestly, it's very, very suspect. The fact that these chicks did not know what she was talking about.
I see.
He was mad that I was, quote, barely there Sunday night after our time in the city. You mean at 10 p.m. when I had to get up at 6:30 the next day for work. I think he wanted me to stay the night again, but I hadn't been in my own bed since Thursday night. He kept whining about wanting a birthday do-over since he was bummed I was gone for so long because I bailed on him because the sushi dinner sucked, the art exhibit was lame, and I left that night. Oh,
this sounds like a bit of a dick right
okay.
This doesn't sound like a guy who would
Sounds
have
like a chick.
had the forethought to prepare something even close to being as elaborate as what you did for his birthday. So already completely mismatched expectations.
So he wants you to do 2 birthdays for him?
Right.
Like, not only is he not happy with the 1 birthday, he wants her to plan 2 birthdays for him.
Was this guy like 5? It's my birthday all week, though.
Oh, is he like 5, or is he a woman in her 20s who is having a birthday week?
Like
it's my birthday week, yeah.
I mean, I'm pro celebrating your entire birthday month, but I don't expect
Fuck off
other people to make sacrifices for me. It's just more of a thing I would do for myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, treat yourself. Yeah.
So it goes on. The next available day I had was the following Wednesday, so I told him I'd make him some dinner and we could have a nice time together. However, plans ended up changing, and over the next few days we broke up. He wouldn't stop complaining about this birthday being shitty, how much I let him down, how I didn't make him feel important even on his birthday. I finally realized that I would never be enough for him, no matter what I did, the gifts I gave, how much time I gave him, it would never be enough. I mean, I'm glad she realized that, honestly, because it's true.
And isn't that she's isn't enough for him? He's not enough for her.
Exactly.
Well.
Yeah, girl, like you gave it 110%. You gave him an amazing, thoughtful gift. You know, did all the things right, planned a dinner, sexy stuff. The whole works, right? The fact that he's not satisfied with that means that there's something wrong and broken inside of him. Like that's not on you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's so much more about him to roast, but I wanted to highlight this whiny tantrum he threw over his birthday weekend.
This is 1.25 speed.
After saying one thing the entire time, truth came to light afterwards, and he twisted the story to fit his own sob story narrative. How did I bail on him when I told him almost 2 weeks in advance about the lunch, which he said that he was okay with? Also, keep in mind, I only rescheduled this lunch in the first place because of his insecurities. I really wish I found FDS before I committed myself to this negative value male and wasted a year of my life, but better late than never, right? I'm very pleased with all of my newfound free time. A weight has been lifted off my shoulders and it feels so good. Going to work on myself and level up. Thank you so much for all that you queens do. Your subreddit and podcast have changed my life for the better. Oh, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. We love the feedback we get from you guys.
Yeah, I'm really glad. Every time I hear a story about a woman breaking up with her shitty boyfriend, I'm like, yes, we got him. We got another one.
And FDS gets her crown.
Yeah, and a queen gets her crown.
A queen gets her crown every time someone breaks up with a negative value male.
Yeah, every time someone breaks up with a negative value male, I'm proud of her. So, yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds like this guy has a hole deep in his soul that will never be fulfilled with anything.
Roasted.
He just sounds super entitled and whiny. Like
roasted.
Yeah. This sounds like the I've had exes like that too, where, you know, I'll do something incredible for Valentine's Day or for a birthday or Christmas or something like that. And whatever I do, it's never good enough. And I think it's just part of like the negging and just trying to make the woman feel beneath him or like she's not good enough. A lot of the times.
Yeah, and constantly on the back foot. Yeah.
And sometimes it's a manipulation tactic to try to just get her to work harder, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like ladies, don't fall for that. Like he should be the one working hard to win you, not the other way around. Like a whole birthday weekend wasn't enough for him. He's like, no, I want a do-over.
Roasted.
Yeah, that's really weird. It's like, again, you're not his mom. I mean, like if you're an adult, people care about your birthday insofar as they also want to have a mutual party with you. Like it becomes a little bit more about the group than I need an intense amount of attention on this day. Because after that, it starts to feel like, okay, this person is just using us all to masturbate their ego with.
Roasted.
Right? I have a weird complex about birthdays just because of like childhood trauma. So I generally don't like a lot of attention on my birthday. I find like my birthday, like when it's another person's birthday, I go all out. I want to make that like the best day possible for them if it's someone that I really care about and love. So I want them to have a good time. I find like on my birthday, I almost don't like to celebrate on my actual birthday. I like to celebrate like the weekend before or after.
The thing is, you have to remember is most people are really excited to just get out of the house for any reason. So never feel bad trying to throw a party because people are always glad when somebody organizes it. Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't this supposed to be a roast to Scrote segment?
Especially the older you get, where there's just less reasons to be bothered with people. So your birthday is not an excuse to act like a narcissistic asshole, right? It is really a celebration for you and the people around you. It's kind of like the whole bridezilla thing. Like, and actually even, I feel like a bride at least has an excuse that you're only going to do that one time. Your birthday's every year. So I kind of feel like after, I don't know, being a child past like 25, I don't know, maybe even before that, but past 20, your birthdays are more like a group celebration and you should keep in mind your guests. Like that's part of, I think, growing up is transferring from being the person that everyone lavishes attention and like gifts on you, like, you know, like it's Christmas, to being like, you're the person that's going out of way to buy gifts. That's part of growing up. But some people don't seem to get that memo and they still think they should be treated like they're 5 on their birthday, which is like, no matter how big of an asshole they act or how entitled and annoying they are, that everybody needs to pay attention to them. But that's not how it works. Like you need to transition from the childlike celebration to the adult version of that. So this guy just sounds like he's still in the everything on my birthday needs to be about me. And that is just really, really
childish. Yeah.
Childish. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. It just sounds like a little 5-year-old Like, he sounds like a grown man with a personality of a 5-year-old.
Yeah, get him a macaroni card with glitter then.
There you go. That's a
perfect
roast.
gift for a 5-year-old.
Now that I'm
Roasted.
thinking about it, I'm thinking about how much of a red flag it was that he acted like he was okay with it at first and then like pulled the rug out from under her in the end. Because that's the fact that she felt
maybe he
anxiety
changed his mind
about telling him, and the fact that, like, you know, he's almost like lulling her into a false sense of security, right? And then like ripping the rug out from under her in the very end. That's actually a kind of abusive like tactic that I've had guys try that on me before, and it's like,
It's very abusive.
yeah, it's like where they pretend, oh, I'm fine with this is great, that's fine, and you get to feel really secure, and then they just blindside you in the end, and then it kind of trains you to be like on your guard, to be paranoid, to doubt yourself, to, you know, if things are going well, to want to walk on eggshells.
To walk on eggshells.
You know, even if things are going well, right? So, fuck that guy. He sounds like a piece of shit. I'm glad she broke up with him.
Roasted.
Yeah, now he'll spend his birthday alone. So
Yeah, as he
win-win.
should.
Now he'll really be
No,
alone.
he'll have a new chick for the next one because he has a whole year to get a new one.
Yeah.
So you just got roasted.
That is
Also,
a win.
now he's got this watercolor painting of his 2 dogs that she bought for him, and he's probably going to think about her every single time he looks at that painting.
And think about what he's lost.
So hopefully he'll reflect and feel bad about himself for being a piece of shit. But he probably won't. He sounds like the kind of shitty narcissistic guy that will just go, oh, poor me, my girlfriend had a bad birthday for me and then like broke up with me a few days later. Wham, I'm the victim. Like, he probably isn't going to learn from that, let's be honest.
All right, so that's our Roast to Scrote.
Oh,
if you'd like
so
to submit
much
your very own
roasting.
Roast to Scrote or listen to our bonus content, please check out our Patreon
No.
at patreon.com/the
Patreon.com/low
female dating
value
strategy.
mail.
And let's start the show.
Oh my God. Can you believe we haven't even started the fucking show yet?
What's up, Queens? Welcome
What's
to
up,
the
Queens?
Female Dating Strategy Podcast, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Ro.
And this is Savannah.
And I'm Lilith.
And today, we're going to talk about vetting for sexual compatibility. So this topic is requested a lot. And I think it has to do with the fact that so much of our culture has been pushing the idea that sex should happen fairly early on in the dating stage to quote unquote check for sexual compatibility. But a lot of women find that that's a pretty unsatisfactory strategy because often you're having sex with creeps or
Shout out to all the creeps who are getting in there.
jerks or just men who you shouldn't have bothered or wasted your pussy on for whatever reason.
Yeah, the whole like, I need to have sex with you in order to test our sexual compatibility is a fucking scam that low value men say when they know that they don't have any repeat customers, so they can get in, get on, get out.
I like calling it a scam.
It's just a way to trick you into like casual sex when you're a woman who normally doesn't want to do casual sex.
Correct.
Yeah, I really resent the idea that now the norm, so to speak, is for you to have sex with a person after 2 to 3 dates, which
Okay. Look, it's not, maybe it's the norm, but the norm is because at the end of the day, all women and all men are competing against one another. Men are competing against men, women are competing against women. So what happens, especially if you're in some big ass city where there's tons of people, right? There are women who are essentially going to skip the line in a sense, and they will have sex. And so if a guy, if that's important to him, some woman will be like, well, you know what? I don't want to have sex for, say, 10 dates. And some guy will be like, well, there's a girl who has equally as good as you, equally as hot, has all the stuff you have, but she'll have sex after 1 date. So, bye, I'll see her. And now you're forced to compete against one another. So this is what happens.
seems way quick, especially if it's a person you just met. If it's a person you've known a while and it's 2 to 3 dates after you've gone on formal dates, it's quite a bit different from
formal dates.
meeting men online or meeting men casually and then expecting that sex happen within 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, or even depending how quick your dates are in succession.
Or not even that. Some guys will be like, I need to have sex with you in order to know whether I want to even take you on a date.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
they basically see women as like, you know, cars to test drive, right? They're like, how do I know whether I want to buy you or spend money on you until
Well, isn't that the whole thing? Buy the cow or whatever?
I've taken you up for a test drive? And that's way too soon.
I would guess there are a lot of women like me in that I'm not that excited about sex with a man after 2
I
to
don't
3
know.
dates. Yeah, who I don't know.
Yeah.
So even
Yeah.
if I'm very, very sexually attracted to him, 2 to 3 dates feels a little bit soon. I will say that I've had sex after a third or fourth date, and I almost always regretted it, even if it led to a relationship, because
Why?
I think later I was like,
Because literally she goes, I gave up some kind of power in this whole power dynamic that then I could not take back.
no, I wish I had dragged this out a little bit more and
Yeah,
got
it's just a game. It's just a
a
fucking
bit
game.
more of a feel for this person.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like it's hotter that way too. To me, it's just more sexually exciting to kind of keep that build up going versus once you have sex, it's kind of all over. You can't have sex the first time again.
Yeah, that's true. Like I find, first of all, like the first time I have sex with a guy is often like when the man is at his best. And there's actually studies showing that like with men, like the idea of having a novel partner, like they'll get the hardest boner or something like that when they have sex with a woman for the first time. And they tend to be better at it when they're emotionally invested in you. Like they are better at, they're actually better at sex when they give a shit about you as a person. Like they care about your pleasure. If the first time you have sex with them is before they've developed that emotional connection, they're not going to be as good.
It could also be a premature expectation of emotional connection, because there's been times where it's only been 3 or 4 dates, but then you're talking and you're texting all night and you think you're building all this rapport, and then you have this buildup for the time that you see them. But then you realize, I think I just realized in hindsight that like text and phone time is really not that much of a substitute from face-to-face time.
Yeah. The other thing is, even if it leads to a relationship, I find that those kinds of men, it often results in like an unsatisfying relationship. Like I had 2 separate exes, and I stopped doing this after the second time. You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Where I had sex with a guy after the second date, and we went on to have a relationship. And both of these exes later on straight up like made fun of me, and were like, "Haha, you had sex with me on the first," or "Haha, you had sex with me on the second date," and like that led to them kind of devaluing me in the relationship later on. So
what the fuck? No, that must have come up because she keeps bringing it up as something like. There's no way guys are just both independently come bringing it up, being like, "Hey, remember when you had sex on the second date? You fool!"
Even in cases where you go on to have a relationship with them, often they just seem to see you as less valuable and give less of a shit about you if you've had sex with them on the second date.
And so I just want to talk about the 3-month rule, which is something that is discussed quite a bit on the subreddit.
Did she just say the 3-month rule?
And the 3-month rule basically says
3-month rule
says that you should wait at least 3 months before becoming like sexually intimate with a man.
All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody. I love you all. That's it. That's it for me. I've heard enough. I've heard enough.
I just want to stress that the 3-month rule is not about, in quotation marks, withholding like sex from men, because it's not something that he's entitled to. I really, really hate the terminology when people are like, "Oh, you're withholding sex from him," as if it's a human right. Sex is not a human right. It's not. I mean, you can argue if it's a need or not, but he won't die if he doesn't have sex with you for the first few weeks, and it's something.
Yeah, he's not going to die, but he's probably not going to be back. Like unless you live in a small town where his options are limited. 3 months is just like, it's just so it seems so premeditated that you've just like decided that, and
on the
feels very withholding deliberately.
Too. If you don't feel ready to have sex, then you are not, withholding anything from him. Like you are maintaining your boundaries. So
yes.
But those are ridiculous boundaries unless you're like specifically religious.
Because I just really, really hate that terminology of, "Oh, you're withholding sex from him," because you don't owe him anything.
I remember when I first found FDS, I thought the 3-month rule was crazy. Like that was the one thing that I was like, these
it is.
bitches are crazy. Like when I first found FDS, I thought you guys were insane. but that's just because we,
Yeah, that's another thing too. If a guy in a big city, 3-month rule, he goes, "Sure, 3 months cool." Yeah, he's getting so much tang in that meantime.
So used to this like sex posy culture where, and hookup, casual sex culture where the idea of waiting 3 months to have sex sounds insane. Like the idea of a long courtship, it sounds so bizarre, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that why it's necessary.
And there's been studies there's been studies I've seen posted on the subreddit where it shows that a lot of people who are narcissistic or who have other kinds of personality disorders or who have general nefarious intentions, it takes about 3 months for them to start to show cracks in the facade.
No. You are going to get the dudes with the biggest personality disorders if you make them wait 3 months, and they do.
Right. And that just comes from recognizing consistency in their behavior that suddenly gets subverted. Suddenly they change their behavior. Or you just start to notice that some of the things that they're saying is obviously bullshit, right? Because if you don't know a person that well, you may take everything that they say at face value. But as you get to know them, you start to realize, I think this is not true, right? You just have that little niggling doubt present in your mind.
I mean, like,
what did she just say?
Narcissists, sociopaths, and other liars, like people who lie pathologically, it takes about 3 months for them to forget the lies that they told you 3 months ago. So then they'll start saying other things that are like, "Wait, but I thought you said blah blah blah," and then that's when you're able to.
That's what I thought she said. Nameless Wallaby. I thought she said niggling. Is that a word? Is that a word we're saying still?
Find the cracks, yeah.
And also, I think, I mean, for me, I've never quite understood this emphasis on sexual activity. If the sex is bomb, but you're not compatible or he's low value, it doesn't matter anyway. And the danger of having sex with somebody too soon is that, say the sex is really good because some low value men, it is possible that they're still very good in bed, but the relationship isn't great. Then does sexual compatibility really matter if you're not compatible in areas where it matters? So, for example, your values, your personality, your life goals and stuff like that. So that's, yeah. So I've never really understood the overemphasis on sex. And if he is, you know, if you are supposed to be together, you know, your sexual compatibility is something that that you can develop together. It doesn't have to be all fireworks from the get-go.
Here's the thing too, these girls, like some of them, I feel like some of them are freaks too. Like the one who's like into BDSM, it's like a guy who's gonna wait 3 months probably is not gonna be cool with like you shoving a ball gag in his mouth and fucking whipping his ass.
I think that's another point to emphasize. I mean, obviously, if he is a selfish lover from the beginning, it's unlikely to get better, but if you are in it for the long haul, there's going to be peaks and troughs in your sex life anyway.
Yeah, and keep it real, homosexuals and manipulators, they always bring the
Did you say homosexuals or hobosexuals?
bomb A-game dick, right? First, and then it's like downhill from
What is
there.
going on this
Their life
episode?
depends on it. For homosexuals, they're really
Hobo.
looking for somebody to save them.
Is this honestly true? Like when I worked in the homeless shelter, you know, I would get men saying,
Oh, you're talking about literal homeless men, hobosexuals.
oh, I'm going to find someone to hook up with tonight just so I don't have to sleep here. And they would go out and find women. Honestly, verbatim, they would admit that to their support workers.
And that's why a lot of guys push for sex so soon, is because they don't just want...
By the way, that is true. I've known people who straight up like didn't have somewhere to sleep at night, and they go, "Yeah, I'll just go find someone to sleep with." I mean, we had, I think Tommy on the Boys Cast said that.
They want your apartment to sleep in.
They want your beds. They want your food.
Yeah.
And then there's just the guys who are very narcissistic, so they want to get you hooked early on. So they think, oh, I'm really, really going to pull out all the stops the first time. And then after that, just do like a severe drop off. So then you're left wondering like, oh, what happened? You know, why are you not being as attentive or intense about your sexual desire anymore? And I've also, unfortunately, experienced that where a guy starts out, and it could just be, it's an extension of love bombing, right? So they do everything at the beginning to make you feel loved, make you feel special. At the beginning, the sex is amazing. It's A1. And then maybe like a couple months in, like they're rolling over and going to sleep. And you're like, what the fuck, man? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, how did your skill set drop off so quickly? And I actually had a guy admit to me once that he was like, well, if I was straightforward with you, you wouldn't like me anymore or something like that. Almost like he had planned on doing this from the beginning because he thought that keeping like stringing me along and kind of being inconsistent would make me more attracted to him, which didn't.
Again, I think you raised an interesting point, you know, where I think we also have to be careful that we're not telling them what it will take for us to sleep with them. I know some women like to put their cards on the table and say, I'm not going to have sex till I get commitment, or I'm not going to have sex until the 10th date or whatever. But that just literally gives them the tools on how they can manipulate you. Like I've had guys pretend to be a Christian, pretend to hate porn, all because they wanted to try and sleep with me.
That is a tale as old as time. We will, guys will literally go, oh, you like Trump? You don't like Trump? Whatever it is. You know how it is. By the way, I just want to make a note, 150 likes, and I will give away another channel membership. We're at 114.
Yeah, I remember one time I made the mistake of telling a guy that I had a 5-date rule, and he was like, no, I totally understand. And then after the 5th date, he ghosted me. So
yeah, they will literally shapeshift to be anything you want if you tell them.
Well, because you were a liar is what happened. He goes, oh, I'm going on a date with a fucking liar. Not interested, lady.
If you tell them beforehand, they will shapeshift into being whatever you want just to sleep with you, and then their true colors will come out afterwards.
Yeah. The other thing about the 3-month rule is like there have been studies showing that for women, when you have sex, it releases oxytocin, and oxytocin is the like bonding hormone, and so women tend to get attached to men after having sex, whereas with men there's almost like the opposite. There's like post nut clarity where if you have sex with a guy and he's not in love with you, he will feel less attracted to you after you have sex with him. It's he
almost becomes repulsed by you. Like some men have said, they almost become like disgusted with
projecting much, Savannah. No, they don't come repulsed by you. They're just the last thing they're ever interested in that 15 seconds is sex.
Like the porn they've watched with the person they've slept with.
Yeah, exactly. But but here's the thing: if you wait to have sex with a man for the first time until after he's in love with you, then that post nut clarity doesn't really apply. Like they'll they stay attracted to you because
honestly, this stuff that they're saying makes sense in a less competitive environment, like, you know, a pre-smartphone, like easily mobile, pre-internet, all that stuff. This does make more sense, but it's just not how it's not practical. It's not practical anymore.
That emotional connection was already there.
Shit's changed.
So yeah, it's actually kind of sad that like our biology is like cursing us in this way where like, you know, if you have sex
biology!
too soon and you're a woman, you'll feel more attraction to him and he'll feel less attraction to you. So it's just not beneficial to women to have sex too soon. The longer you wait, the better off it is for you.
I mean, can I just ask you wiser
Maybe.
ladies a question? Is post-nut clarity an actual thing for men?
I think it's a thing. I mean, I think
Why are you asking these chicks if post-nut clarity is a thing? Fuck do they know?
it's actually a thing for women too, to be honest, because I've definitely thought I liked a guy and then realized, oh, I was just horny. Later.
Okay.
So, I don't know what that is, but I can say I've experienced it as a woman. I don't know if it's as intense or as frequent as maybe it is for men, but I do think it's a thing.
I think for me, like, I do know that I get attached after sex. Like, I just know that that's the way that I am. And I want to have a connection before sex. I want to feel safe and comfortable with him. And then after I have sex, that makes it that feeling more intense. So I just know that my hormones and my biology are like tricking me into, this is all just like your biology is trying to trick you to make babies. Okay. You got to understand that like
now you guys want to talk about biology? All right.
Your hormones are set up to make you reproduce. They're not set up to make you happy. Okay. Evolution doesn't give a shit about you being happy. Okay. The only thing evolution gives a shit about is passing on your genetics. Right. So,
and that's why we have to adjust dating culture to be more realistic to what's true or at least consistent for the average woman. Because I remember reading an article, and I think it was Caitlin Roper on Twitter who had retweeted this. And she was writing, and it was basically an article that had been written in one of the women's magazines, like Elle or Allure, one of those magazines. And it was like how not to catch feelings after a hookup. And it was stuff like don't make eye contact or don't kiss. And I'm like, why are you having sex with this person if you can't make eye contact with them? And it was all about tricking your mind and your body not
Bang autistic guys. They can't make eye contact.
to release like oxytocin.
That's so weird.
So
That's
I was
so
like, this seems like a lot of work for a nut that's probably not even going to be worth it at the end of the day. It's better to me to honor and work with your biology than to constantly, and to change the culture to work with our biology better than to constantly be trying to fit ourselves and shapeshift into this like aspirational ideal that we can all just hook up with no feeling about it.
also,
right?
why is hooking up without any feelings? Why is that even the goal?
Because men do it, and libfens love to think men are the standard, right?
I mean, but the thing is though,
equality, baby.
But even men I've spoken to who will literally sleep with anything, who are promiscuous, you know, even they will admit that sex is always better when it's when it's with someone you actually care about.
Yeah.
I mean, so even men don't really buy into this whole, sex. I mean, they do to a certain degree, but they will always prefer sex with somebody they have.
Look, every guy knows that this is true, right? Sex is way better with some gross chick that you know really well than some smoking hot model you've never met before. It's just science.
Attachment to, or who they care about. It will always be better.
Yeah. You know what I realized? You know what I realized looking at some of the, like, I have this morbid fascination with like pickup artists and red pillar types. And so just seeing the way that some of them talk about.
Do you? Then you're going to love our boy Top G.
The women that they have sex with. It's clear that even they don't enjoy it. Like they'll say like, you're just putting your engorged member inside of her moist hole. And it just sounds very like mechanical. Like they're just doing it because they feel like they have to, or to just like take off a notch in their belt or some weird shit. I don't know. But it's very clear to me that even like promiscuous men don't seem to enjoy the casual sex that they're having.
Yeah, most of these guys who are promiscuous, a lot of times they have wives, which is so wild. I mean, even if you look at professional athletes, these guys fuck all the most beautiful women in the world, and most of them still want a wife. They still want a woman they feel emotionally and sexually connected to, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have to get married. Tiger Woods didn't have to get married, but he did, right? Like he could have like had an entire harem full of women he just spun through forever. And well, maybe not now because he's like definitely well past the wall. We've seen him lately. Like he's like balding and potbelly. But
you want to talk shit about Tiger Woods? He does not have a potbelly. He was in a goddamn car accident. He's the greatest golfer of all time.
Tiger Woods when he was like on the
and he's a billionaire. Are they trying to make the case that Tiger Woods is a low value male now?
Cover of GQ, looking like very handsome. He's always been kind of a nerd, but he could have had all those same women he was messing with, all the porn stars or whatever. He didn't have to be married. But I think a lot of times men they want that for sure. They just want to kind of have their cake and eat it too.
Everybody wants their cake and eat it too.
Megan Thee Stallion had a line like, guys who cheat on their wives are just greedy. Like they want to have someone they can come home to and love and have intimacy with, but they also want to go out and get their, get their side piece as well, right? So they're just greedy. They want to have their cake and eat it too. But for women, it's a different game, okay? Because like casual sex is just like, I don't know, it's just not it's not fun.
It's high risk. It's high risk.
High risk. It is high risk. That is the real answer. It's very high risk.
Extremely low reward.
Yeah. I remember one time I had sex with a guy on the second date, and he literally came in like 2 thrusts. Like he was such a premature
nice dog.
Ejaculator. Like the moment his dick entered my body, he came. And I remember like, and I just remember him like being like the like that man orgasm sound kind of thing.
Oh no.
And I was just like, wait, what? Like, that's it? and he said something like, oh yeah, like this is a problem. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. I straight up like laughed in his face. I didn't even know how to act. I just was in shock. I just like, just could not, I just burst out laughing. And he fucking...
Guys, that's why you always rub one out before the date.
Freaked out on me. He was like, oh yeah, like you're the least supportive partner I've ever had. Like every woman before you has been
literally a 2-pump chump.
Been so much nicer about this than you. Blah blah blah. You're such a mean person.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be single.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he was like so butthurt.
This is called Roe annotates all of these stories, punctuating the lies. Yeah,
punctuating the lies. Yeah, so he's saying, how I'm such a horrible person and I'm so unsupportive, and like all the other women are supportive of it, and I'm like, what? Like, what? Anyways, he stormed out and like, blocked me on everything, never spoke to me again. But still, that's like, I don't know why I brought that up. That was just like the most bizarre. That was actually, I think, the last time I ever had casual sex. Like, so.
If you're that guy and you're in this chat, just please say yes. Just please reply with a yes if that was you.
Because that's rock bottom, isn't it? That's the day where you're just like.
That's like rock bottom.
Yeah. It's time to reevaluate everything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that my pussy is just that magical that he just couldn't help himself. He just like came the second and entered my body. I literally have like divine pussy energy, but
yeah, I got some bad news for you, sister. He's doing that with anybody. That's not you.
Part of me is like, yeah, hell yeah, I got like maximum efficiency going on down there, but still, I was just like, that was.
It sounds like maximum efficiency for him.
Anyways.
Okay, so moving on from that, I want to talk about the lies that men tell to manipulate women into having sex sooner than they perhaps would like to. So the first one is, I think that we've already touched on this one, but it's, he needs to know if you're sexually compatible before continuing the relationship.
Yeah, you got to know if it fits.
I mean, we've already touched on it, but men don't fall in love through sex, and that is something that we need to internalize as women, is that men generally don't fall head over heels in love with women
I don't know
because
about
she's
that.
great in bed. It's a lie, complete lie.
Yeah, this lie that you need to have like porn star sex with him in order for him to fall in love with you is a lie. If anything, like the more wild or kinky the sex is, the less respect he'll have for you, sadly.
Exactly. And this idea is so it's so prevalent in the BDSM community. You would get, because the thing is, in the BDSM community, a lot of the partnerships there, so the dom sub dynamics, were between people who weren't in relationships. So that was quite common actually, like for your dom to not be your boyfriend.
What?
And some
What? The dom to not be your boyfriend? That's weird.
Yeah, it was quite common for people to just be play partners, as they called it. And I would see some missives on the subreddit all the time saying, "Oh, my dom said that he's happy to try BDSM with me, but not with his wife because he respects her too much."
Wow.
He's straight up saying, "I don't respect you."
I'm outsourcing my depression.
Yeah, but you know what? Some women, and I've heard this before, that turns them on. Just being a piece of meat that's not respected. I don't know.
On someone I believe to be lower than me.
Yeah, and I think even Armie Hammer said that as well. Like, he said that he can never do BDSM with his wife because he just respects her too much. So it's the classic Madonna whore complex. But yeah, it completely proves what, for example, what's just been said, in that being a porn star for men does not make them respect you at all. At all.
It does the opposite. It makes them respect you less.
I think authenticity is always the most important thing with women. Like,
yeah, and it sort of puts women into a category in their minds of the women they can just use and abuse. It's not fair at all because they're also partaking in that porn star sex, but it is what it is.
I think the fantasy, again, that liberal feminists had was that this kind of sex, if we quote unquote normalize it, we normalize kink and we normalize a lot of these more abusive kinks, that men would be more comfortable talking about them in relationships. And that only kind of sort of happened, right? Like they still continue to have the quote unquote virginal, respectable wife, and then outsource the more depraved sex to women they believe are lower than them on the social hierarchy.
Whoa.
And, even if they do bring that home to a significant other, it doesn't always really, and most of the time doesn't stay in the bedroom, right? It becomes like a system, a repeated way that they disrespect their partner, right? And that disrespect starts to bleed into other areas of their life. And that's something you also see on like BDSM subreddits, right? Where it's like they don't know how to turn
The disrespect in the BDSM community is just way out of hand.
that dynamic off. So it's really, really interesting because I think there's the fairy tale, the goal, and then the real deal, which is that men who view women like this sexually often engage in this kind of extracurricular activities with women outside of their marriage, outside of their primary partner, or if they do engage with it, or if they do engage in it with their primary partner, a lot of times they start to disrespect them if they didn't disrespect them up front.
Yeah. This lie that liberal feminists have been trying to spread that, if we destigmatize like kinkiness and stuff, then men will be more open to talk about it in their relationships. It's not that they're more open and like willing to talk about it in their relationships. It's just now that that's become what they've come to expect from women, that they think that they're entitled to that now.
Liberal feminism for the win.
So it wasn't a matter of like openness, communication, free love, blah, blah, blah. Now it's just become the sexual standard that men think they have a right to degrade women.
They don't understand that the Madonna whore complex is just a male sexual strategy, and that's going to be the same no matter how.
That's my new podcast starting next week, Male Sexual Strategy. Come check it out. By the way, 28 more likes and I'll give away another channel membership.
much they try to quote unquote normalize something, they'll just find some other reason to find a group of women and disrespect. And that's just because that's their sexual strategy, right? Have one group of women you ensure your progeny with. It's like if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, right? Every single type of period piece or any type of political strategy type movie or TV show, you see this over and over and over. The king has a wife that he uses to secure his legacy and his progeny. Those are the kids he takes care of.
To bear him heirs.
And then a bunch of other women he has quote unquote bastards with that they use for sexual gratification. It has nothing to do with, if we just like make this activity normal, they're going to stop wanting to do it, right? It's just a matter of them wanting to secure paternity with one group of women and then have another group of women they can just act out all their sexual fantasies on and never have to worry about paternity. And that's not going to change normalizing depraved sexuality.
Yeah, it works if you're a king.
Like women just need to be honest. Like this is a male sexual strategy and we need to be realistic and arm ourselves. It's sort of like it's like a sexual arms race kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And another thing about the whole like sexual compatibility thing is that the sexual compatibility only works in the man's favor. Because if you look at things like the orgasm gap, it's already
The orgasm gap?
Quite big in a
It's a big orgasm gap?
familiar relationship. So when you have an established relationship, I think a study in 2017 showed that 83% of men orgasm during sex in stable relationships compared with 63% of women.
Only 83% of men? So 17 out of 100 men ain't busted nuts during sex? That's the real scandal here.
But when they looked
63 seems high. It should be lower.
Yeah.
Well, they said in
And
relationship.
look, if you're mad about this 63%, don't blame guys, blame God. God made you that way.
I think it's super low for first time sex or one night stands, right? It's like 7% for women in one night stands.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a stat here from a 2012 study by the American Sociological Review, and it said that 40% of women climax during their last hookup compared with 80% of men. So even if the numbers aren't like 7%.
Oh, yeah, 80% during a hookup, yeah, just because obviously whiskey, dick, and whatnot.
That is a massive difference. Massive difference. And that just shows you that men are not interested in getting you off, when they've just met you.
Yeah. I don't care about her pleasure unless she's my wife, yeah.
Well, it's just so much more work, and it's not really a quick thing to get a woman off. It's whole
only for my wife
process.
or some shit like that. So it's just a complete lie. This whole we need to check if we're sexually compatible. And also, like I've said before, like if the guy is meant to stick around, you can explore your sex life together. It doesn't have to be after the second or third date. You've got the rest of your lives to navigate your sex life. So just don't fall for that.
Yeah, I've had guys pull that like, but how are we going to know if we're sexually compatible thing? And it's like,
He'd be like, I'm studying you right now. All of this is sexual compatibility.
yeah, that's
Yeah. And they're talking like
He's not talking about you. Let's talk about him.
And they're talking like you've said that you will never have sex with them. You haven't said that. You've just said, or you've not said, but you're just choosing to wait until you feel more comfortable around them.
Yeah. Yeah, the sexual compatibility
Cotton in her mouth?
thing is a lie. Like, ladies, you're not a car to be test driven. You're a human being, and you get to set the standards of when, and you get to set the standard of when you want to have sex.
Absolutely.
Even if it's longer than what he wants.
And it's not even just that.
100%.
It's like, why would you... I'm trying to think of an analogy of how it is with men. It's like you
Not another analogy.
wouldn't want to jump into a swamp and you don't know what's in the water, right? Like you got to throw a stick in there and see if something jumps out to bite you. That's probably a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying?
That was not a good analogy. Generally, when you start with wanting to come up with an analogy without having the analogy, that's like when you're trying to make a cake, but you don't have any flour.
Yeah, I get the analogy. Yeah.
When it comes to men, it's not necessarily like you kind of got to survey the perimeter, look for anything bubbling underneath the surface, dip your toe in, check the temperature of the water. You know, there's all sorts of things you got to do to make sure something's safe to swim in, right?
I think a better analogy would be like, say you're thinking of investing in a company, and they're like, well, how are we going to know if we're good business partners unless you invest immediately? And it's like,
Yeah,
well, that's why I'm doing my research into your company to see if I think that you're something worth investing in, because once I've thrown money at you, it's too late. Right?
Okay, well, while you're waiting to see if you want to invest in me, I've been doing business with all these other hooers.
You're not going to find out if you're compatible business partners. Like, there's other ways of finding out if you're compatible business partners before throwing money at something.
Yeah. You need to see your due diligence. So the second
I don't
point
know
is,
why that made me laugh so hard. Samantha goes, yeah.
I've not actually heard of this before, but emotional support nudes. So I assume it's when a guy asks a woman for nudes to help his mood.
Or like he'll have a sob story about how he had such a hard day at work, or he just got fired, or his grandma died, or something like that. He'll try to elicit your pity somehow, and then be like, "Babe, can you send a nude? Because it would just make me so much happier. It would make me cheer me up."
But how will nudes make it better?
It won't. First of all, he probably is lying about.
Nudes make everything better, okay? What do you mean, how will nudes make it better? What kind of fucking stupid question is that?
The whole sad shit that he's going through. He just knows.
I'm so confused.
No, it's because men know that women's
All right,
emotions.
Savannah, send me your number. I'll send you a picture of my balls, and you'll see how they make things better.
They're very easily manipulated. And so that's the strategy that they use. They're like, oh, I'm just going to get her to feel bad for me, and then she's going to have a sense of obligation and do what I want, kind of thing.
It'd be like, I had a bad day, but you know what would cheer me up?
She's going to send me nudes.
Seeing a picture of you naked.
Yes!
Down smiley face emoji.
Yeah.
You know, something like very,
Absolutely.
very cheeky.
And also, it makes her feel like a monster if she says no, right? Like, oh, so you just want me to emotionally suffer then?
Yeah, I've honestly never heard of that before. That is the wildest thing. I just can't imagine. If I'm feeling down, I just think, yeah, I really want to see like Chris Hemsworth naked. That would really cheer me up.
That would honestly cheer me
I've
up.
just never thought that.
Yeah, true.
I mean, men are just like Coomer chimps, okay? So, like, their brains are different than ours.
Yeah, just an aside, like any man who asks you for nudes is low value by default.
Yeah.
Because
That's everyone.
I can't even get into that because it could be an episode in itself. But yeah, any man who does that is just low value.
Men act like getting nudes are like collecting Pokemon, okay? Like, they brag about it with their friends and stuff. Like, oh, look. And here's the thing, they actually don't respect women who send them nudes.
No.
They're like, haha,
Right.
look at all these pictures that I got from all these dumb, gullible bitches. Like, they don't respect you more for it. They just think you're a sucker. That's what's so frustrating about it, is because, like, when you do what they want, they have less regard for
They
you.
have less respect for you, yeah.
They're trying to present an option to you that seems like it's bringing you closer together, but instead it's just a way for them to manipulate you into doing something that's going to increase their own social clout.
Yeah. That's 100% it, because for them it's like, look how like much of a baller I am or something. Like they think when they're talking to their male friends, it's something that makes them look cooler or smarter or better at manipulating or something. Like, they really do take pride in manipulating women and you know, yeah, just like, look at all these gullible bitches I've managed to manipulate.
Yeah, only because women are the top G's of manipulators. Women are the best manipulators. So then when you manipulate the best of the manipulators, you're like, you know, it's the student has become the master.
They're proud of it. Yeah, so don't like sacrifice your social standing to increase another man's social standing.
100%. And you're not his personal porn star as well. I've seen, men say like, oh, if I stop watching porn, then if you send me videos or pictures or whatever, like, you're not a porn star.
He's still watching porn.
Yeah.
Even if you're making nudes for him, he's still watching porn. It's just that now you're this porn star for him. It's like...
And you're not his personal porn star. You don't have to sign up to that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the final one is if he says that his particular love language is physical touch. So this is a classic. This is a classic one that I've seen like bandied around because physical touch is often a euphemism for just sex. Even though there are many, many ways to physically touch somebody that doesn't involve having sex with them. There can be, for example, you can cuddle, you can give massages, you can hold hands. But this particular one, and also I don't.
Funny how the guys who say my love language is physical touch will like recoil if you try to hold their hand in public.
Recoil? Yeah, don't hold my hand. My wife's around.
But then if you turn around and say like, oh, my particular love language is receiving gifts, they'll call you a gold digger.
Right. Or they'll say my love language is physical touch to get out of doing things in your quote unquote love language, even though that book's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, because your love language is just getting bot shit.
Responsible for a lot of terrible relationship issues. But
yes.
Meaning instead of saying my love language is a physical touch, meaning just saying I want a woman to touch me, they'll say my love language is physical touch, meaning this is how I express affection, and they'll mean that exclusively, that they're doing nothing else but trying to have sex with you and grab on your titties all day, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, see, my love language isn't gifts, and so that's why I can't get you a gift for your birthday, because it's just not my love language.
Right.
That works?
Exactly.
But physical touch is my love language, so that's why I'm going to paw at you.
Grabbing a handful of pussy. That's why I'm grabbing a handful of pussy right now.
Yeah, that's how I show my love, is grabbing your pussy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why I don't really buy into the whole love language thing, because I fully believe that because for example, like I'm not a very affectionate person. Like I don't tell my family I love them. I don't give hugs very often because that's just not really, I mean, I do love my family a lot. But it's just not something that I do.
You're supposed to be like, Savannah, are you okay?
Like I just don't.
No, she's not.
I remember when my sister dropped me off, at the airport one time when I was going to New York.
17 likes and I'll give away another channel membership. We don't have that much longer in this episode.
And then I was fully about to walk on the plane. And then she was like, oh, can I get a hug? I was like, oh, yeah, you can have a hug. And then I just got on the plane. But anyway, it's not really my love language. However, if I was in a relationship with somebody who felt that words of affirmation or physical touch was important to them, I would make an effort to do that for them because it matters to them. I wouldn't just be like, yeah, sorry, it's not for me, but you can still give me my, you can still do my acts of service and give me my gifts because that's my love language, So it's not, I just feel like it's just used to manipulate women, and the physical touch one is just it's just a classic sign that a guy is just out for sex.
Yeah. And I hate how low-value scrotes have ruined this concept, because...
Low-value scrotes? That's a thing now?
I actually do love physical touch. Like, I love to, not just, like, sex, but, like, I love to hug people, not even, like, romantically, but just, like, I love to, like, hug people in the flirting episode. One of my favorite ones is, like, just touching their arm or something like that. If I'm in a relationship, if, say, the guy's doing dishes or something, I'll just, like, come up behind him and, like, give him a hug. I'll just, like, I call it being a koala. Just like hang off of him or whatever. I just love, being physically close, being physically intimate and stuff. And I don't like how guys have changed. It's like they don't care about that type of intimacy unless they're getting their dick wet. And it's just kind of ruined that for me. It's like they've ruined the concept of physical touch for me. So I'm...
Damn, that's fucking next level jaded. Where guys have ruined the concept of physical touch. How are you even going to come back from this?
Upset about that, but... physical touch. Here's the thing with love languages, like all 5 of them are important in a healthy relationship.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
I don't like how guys will be like, oh, this is my love language. It's the way that they manipulate women into taking 1/5 of what should be bare minimum. Like if you're in a healthy relationship, you should be doing, it's quality time, gifts, acts of service, physical touch. And what's the 4th one? I can't remember the 4th one, but you should be doing all 5, or 5th one. You should be doing all 5 with the person that you love.
Self-flagellation?
No, it's
no.
What?
Oh.
Self-flagellation? No. It's was it physical touch, acts of service, gifts,
blood sacrifice?
Bro, what the fuck?
No.
I did not just slip the second one.
That's my love language.
Hold on. Words of affirmation. What? That's the other one. Words of
Yeah.
affirmation, right? So yeah, like you should be, being physically intimate with your partner. You should be verbally affirming them, telling them how much you love them. You should be spending quality time together, buying each other gifts. I always forget like the 5th one, whatever it is.
There's 5?
Yeah, these are all things you should be doing with your partner. It's not like you can just be like, oh, I only express love through physical touch, and all of those other 4 things, like, I'm not going to do them with you because it's not my love language. Like, fuck that. That's some low value shit.
Our love language. Remember, our love language is
My love language is some big ass fake titties.
winning the Polycule Fight Club deathmatch.
What?
If
you win.
Did we say sexual Spartacus? Was that
Sexual Spartacus.
Sexual Spartacus?
Yeah, gladiator.
We're all Spartacus.
Yeah, that's my love language. Just two guys beating the shit out of each other, and then I fuck the winner. And that's my kink. You can't kink shame me for it because it's my kink.
Sexual Spartacus.
I love the movie Gladiator, though, for real. That's hot. Anyways.
The puppies are here.
Okay, so on to the final part of this episode. So how can we, vet for sexual ability, like, without having sex? And I think there are a number of ways that this can be done.
Yeah.
Puppies are
First base,
here.
second base. First of all, you can tell a lot about whether a guy's a good lay just from how he kisses. I think that's why kissing exists.
I mean, but I think the vetting can even, start like before then. So is he, for example, has he got good physical fitness, for example? Or is he well groomed? Is he well put together? Like those sorts of things initially.
Oh,
before
does
you
he
start
not
getting
have
into the
matted
physical touch
shitty
arena.
hair? Yeah.
Yeah, because if somebody isn't concerned about their appearance, chances are they're not going to be great in bed.
Right. So I think you have to start with all of these sensory things about the man, right?
Does he smell good?
Yeah. Does he smell good? Oh my God. Let's talk about that. Let's pull over and talk about smell. I'm serious. I have literally stopped dead in my tracks because a man that walked by me smelled really good.
Yeah, same.
I don't know that men focus on that.
Yeah, it's just a cologne you can buy. Yeah, he bought a thing for $80 that is literally like
To the extent that they need to.
Same.
Because the way that a man smells is everything. And that's why a lot of women...
It's not how he smells. I mean, I guess it is how he smells, but it's just a smell he purchased. It's not how he innately smells. He just found a smell that can fool you.
If you're in a relationship, they'll love to wear like their man's t-shirt or their sweatshirt because it smells like you're being wrapped in a warm hug. And it's really, really sexual in a lot of ways. But to me, that's actually probably up there, meaning... If a man smells good to me, chances are we're much closer in sexual attraction than even sometimes than like actual physical attributes about the man. Smell is really, really a sexual attraction trigger for me.
100%.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things that goes both ways. Like I love certain perfumes actually, and I highly recommend women. If you're not allergic to scents, you got to find yourself a signature smell because. This is going to sound really narcissistic, but I find like I don't know if I want to say what my signature scent is because it's going to make me really clockable in real life, but
say it.
You got to find yourself a signature scent and that's going to make guys
Dracar, what is it? Dracar Noir, whatever.
Addicted to you. I find like the scent, something about smell.
I gotta say, the most fucked up scents that women wear is the one that makes them just smell like food. You go, what are you're basting yourself at this point? It's like you're like in a marinade.
Humans, it triggers a lot of memories and stuff, right? Like, remember my first ever boyfriend had this Versace cologne. And now sometimes like whenever I'm just walking down the street, if I smell that randomly, it'll like trigger a ton of memories, right? And humans just have really positive associations with smells.
I've read that women's olfactory glands or whatever, like it's actually really sophisticated and perhaps designed to help us smell out genetic compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
Shut the fuck up. No way.
Which is the case with a lot of animals, because when you look at other mammals, they usually smell each other's pee or smell each other's butts or whatever. And so some of that might actually be us smelling someone who's like genetically compatible with us. The bad news about that is that birth control apparently disrupts that significantly. So if you're taking birth control, they've done studies actually where a lot of women, if they meet a guy when they're on birth control and then they go off of it, sometimes that man like smells repulsive to them after that.
Damn.
Because birth control actually disrupts your ability to correctly process the sensory information that you're getting. So
COVID too. All these chicks losing their smell with COVID.
That's something to think about too, is like if you're on birth control and you meet a guy, maybe, I don't know what the solution to that is, but like be aware that it could affect your sense of sexual compatibility with him because you won't be able to smell him fully.
That's so interesting. I've heard that women have a better sense of smell or a more sophisticated olfactory system because of pregnancy. And so women, you know how women, when they get pregnant, certain smells will just be really, really repulsive. Apparently, it's been theorized that this is so that women can smell if there's spoiled food or something like that, because if you get sick when you're pregnant, you could lose the baby, right? And so we need to be able to tell if the food that we're eating
Can't tell if food's spoiled. It's pretty distinct.
is going to be good for us or not.
Mm.
So yeah,
That's interesting.
fun fact.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yeah, I like guys who smell nice. If he smells like gross BO,
100%. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't like a guy who smells like gross BO? Because guys don't like girls who smell like gross BO. I think that's just pretty normal.
So that's one way with sexual compatibility. Does he smell good to you?
This is why I could never understand people who would say, "Oh, my ex stank" or "he was smelly." I was like, if anyone smells bad, that is just a non-starter for me. Absolutely, like not going to you non-starter.
Yeah. I like things that smell good, and I strongly dislike things that smell bad. That's just how we are.
Wow. Good
Call
insight.
me crazy, but
Yeah, it sounds obvious, but
12 more likes.
okay, this is another aside, but I heard that one of the like incel like red pill ways of negging women is by saying she smells bad, is by telling a woman that she smells bad. And so I remember reading this story on Reddit a while back where a woman was saying like, I've been, it's for 2 years now, I've been doing everything I can to get rid of BO.
I saw that one. Yeah,
I know
what we're talking about.
Showering 3 times a day, like doing all this crazy shit to try to smell good for her boyfriend, who keeps telling her that she smells bad. And then by the end of it, she finally got him to admit that he learned this trick from his dad, and apparently this is something his dad would do to his mom, where he straight up deliberately admitted like this is a way of making her feel like shit and insecure about herself so that she won't leave you.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Nice little tactic, boys, if you're keeping score at home.
Oh,
that's unrelated, but still, yeah, it's just talking about smells. Sight. Is he hot?
Sight. Yeah, well, not even just is he hot, does he look well
Groomed.
Yeah.
Is he well put together? Yeah, is he well groomed? Like, are his nails trimmed? Like,
I am highly offended by any man who would even suggest that he should touch my vagina and he does not have pristine, clean hands and fingernails.
this is why I do hand inspection. I was like, show me your hands. I also get him to send me videos. I'll show me your hands. Like, I want to see your hands. People think it's weird.
I will say though, the guys out there with the long ass fingernails, I don't know what's going on, but you got to cut them shits.
Like, people do a lot with their hands. Like, that's their main way of touching you. So if their hands are like crusty and dusty, it's not going to work. Like, it's just gross.
Something sexy about a man's hands if they're like, I like it when a guy's hands are,
Is this a female dating strategy podcast anymore? Or is this just chicks talking about stuff they like?
From a hard day of work, but also clean at the end of the day. Like I dated a guy who was a mechanic, so he had pretty dirty hands most of the time. He would eat with fucking engine oil on his hands. It was disgusting. But then at the end of the day, he had this like mixture of laundry detergent and sawdust that he would like thoroughly clean his hands with. And he had a little brush that he'd clean under his nails and stuff. So by the end of the day, it was fine. But yeah, when he was on his lunch break, he would just straight up eat his sandwich with fucking black on his hands. It was like disgusting. But anyways, that's an anecdote.
Yeah,
but yeah.
like every mechanic in the world, you're welcome for having your cars being able to run, ladies.
Men's hands can be sexy.
Clean hands are a must.
So yeah, give him a once over, because how he takes care of himself says a lot about how he'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Right? If he looks like he spends all his days like watching
Yeah, if he spends all his days working like a fucking dog and doesn't have enough time to clean his goddamn hands because it's more important to work, keep the goddamn society going.
TV, eating Cheetos, and then fapping with lotion, that'll be reflected in his appearance, and that's the effort of sex you're going to get.
Fapping with lotion. Oh, is that why some guys have such smooth hands?
Yes.
No.
Definitely.
Ew.
Baby soft, and the rest of them is ashy and crusty. Yeah. But their hands are baby soft.
He's a coomer.
Yeah.
Wait, so what's the
What
other
is this
one?
coomer? Like this is some insult. Oh, he masturbates? These chicks probably masturbate 20 times a day a piece.
What about hearing?
Ooh.
I mean, for
Hearing.
me, like, I'm just going to put this
All right,
out.
we're wrapping this up soon, by the way. 12 more likes and I'll give away one more channel membership. Let's get there.
That I am a sucker for a guy with a nice voice. Like,
True.
Yeah.
Same.
Oh, Savannah is a sucker for a guy with a nice voice, isn't it?
he could literally like read me the alphabet and I'll just be like like drooling. Like, he has to have a nice voice, and I can't quite put my finger on what makes it a nice voice, but it needs to be pleasant sounding. That's what I'm gonna say.
Oh, it needs to be pleasant sounding.
I guys with accents. I don't know. I just like foreign men with foreign accents, especially like Italian or French or some kind of like sexy European. That's my kink.
So I'm going to posit an underrated big dick energy reading strategy is a guy with a deep voice probably has large testicles, which means his penis is probably also big.
Is that actually is that a thing?
Is that true?
What the fuck did I just hear? These chicks are, this is wild speculation at this point.
I thought so. I thought like because your testicles produce testosterone, and that makes your
Right.
voice deeper. So
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, the guys with the highest pitch.
and this is my this is Rose sexual big dick energy test is generally like a guy with a deep voice probably has large testicles, and he probably has the dick to match.
I'm learning so much on this episode. I love it.
Yeah, because this is fucking next level pseudoscience right
Yeah, now that I'm thinking back, I'm recalling like every guy I've ever slept with, and like the ones with the higher pitched voices did have a smaller penis. Like,
Wait, did you just recall every single guy you've ever had sex with in the last 4 seconds?
It's purely anecdotal, but there is a correlation there.
We're almost there, people.
I'm
We're
sure it's
almost
not 100%,
there.
but I will say that's been a winning strategy for me.
Noted. Anyways.
Yeah.
Now, if there's any guys listening to this, they're going to go into like do like vocal training to try to deeper. They won't have
I don't know what you're talking about, baby. Although we know who has the deepest voice, and that's Chad.
a sexy baritone or something. Does he have a gentle but firm touch? I don't like guys that just like paw at you and are too aggressive, but I also don't like guys who are too like, I don't know.
This porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. You can never please them.
And like weak, right? I like a firm but gentle touch.
And, you know, this is kind of goes along with just the way that he moves in general. But, you know, how does it feel when you're touching him? Like if you're making out with him, is he open to it? Does he have this like weird aggressive energy? This is more of an energy type thing. But I think when you touch him, the way he responds to your touch can tell you a lot of information as well.
Because some guys literally, when you kiss them, they literally become like a dog.
Like if he recoils in disgust, he might be a homosexual.
Like trying to lick your whole face and it's like all gets off. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, and that brings us to taste. Guy's bad breath, next.
Yeah,
bad breath is gross.
Figure out if he brushes his tongue by playing some tonsil hockey, right?
Yeah, I would want to find out, like, I'm trying to think what's a good way to find out if a guy has a gross tongue before kissing him, because I don't want to kiss a guy with a gross tongue. Ask him if he can touch the tip of his chin with his tongue. Like, be like, can you touch your tongue to your chin? Let him lay it out, see what his tongue looks like. If it's like white and crusty looking, like, ooh, no. I've never tried that, but I just came up with that on the spot.
But yeah,
what that makes no sense.
I
don't brush my tongue, but I don't have a weird ass tongue smell.
As a sense is, but I'd also think that his character traits can tell you a lot as well. So if he's a generous man outside the bedroom, he's more likely to be generous in the bedroom. I think women who say, for example, oh, my boyfriend's really selfish in bed, but he's a great partner, are being disingenuous, because if you were a great partner, you would care about your partner's sexual pleasure. It doesn't really compute that he's only selfish in the bedroom. He's almost definitely selfish in other areas as well.
Yeah, I think the bar is like so low for men that women think...
The bar is so low for women. The bar is lower for women than men. I don't think you change.
He's a great partner if he doesn't like beat her or like emotionally abuse her.
True.
Oh, he's a great partner because he doesn't like call me fat and ugly, and he doesn't, abuse me like other men or whatever. So if he's just doing the bare minimum, they think he's a great partner, and that's not enough to actually be a good partner.
Yeah. Yeah. So if he's a generous person, and if he's also thoughtful and caring towards you, then that also gives an indication as to whether he will be a good sexual partner as well, in my opinion.
Very true.
Very true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, men who
ladies are running out of steam right now
in real life. They tend to be more generous lovers. I find like the worst men I've ever slept with were guys who are just very tight-fisted and cheap. And we get a lot of flack for like liking it when a guy pays for
so they don't like Jews now, huh?
Dates and stuff. But it's not just about the actual transfer of money. It's about seeing if he's a generous person. And guys who are cheap tend to be cheap in other ways, like with their attention and with their love and with their...
Oh, let me guess. They're also globalists? Wink.
Sexual prowess.
They're always looking for shortcuts. They're always looking for deals. They're always looking they're always looking out for self first.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be a lifelong battle with them.
Yeah, they call it a sexual marketplace, but then they're the kind of guy to like haggle at the booth over like 20 cents or something like that. So like that kind of guy has small dick energy.
Small dick. I was just about to say that. Small dick energy to the max.
Small dick energy.
Yeah. Side note, I've actually gotten really good at clocking small dick energy. Like you can just kind of tell, like, the first example that comes to mind is like, so BBC did a documentary on like men's rights activists, and there's this guy, Reggie Yates, and he's the presenter.
Oh, I love Reggie Yates.
Yeah, I think that I really liked Reggie in this documentary. I thought he was very thoughtful and very balanced. But he did this one. He went and interviewed Roosh V, who's like one of those like pickup artist types. And I've read Roosh's writing before. I'd never seen him like speak or in a video or heard his voice before. And within 10 seconds, I was like, this guy has a tiny dick, because you can just tell in his behavior, in his body language. He does this. It's funny when you see the conversation between him and Reggie, because Reggie's almost like a foil to him in a way, where Reggie just seems very like comfortable in his masculinity. He exudes like big dick energy. And then you get to see Roosh, who's like the opposite of that, he does this thing that like Scrotes do, where they kind of shrug their shoulders and like retract their head into their neck like a turtle. It's a very like, it's hard to describe, but if you see
one thing you're not factoring in, it might be true, but also like the guy who's the interviewer, he gets the edit. He gets to edit this thing, so he gets to make himself look exactly how he wants to, and he gets to make the other guy look exactly as bad as
the interview with him. You'll see what I mean, where it's almost like they're kind of retreating into themselves, and yeah, that's like small dick energy. So you can kind of tell once you
turtles have small dick energy.
Sense of it.
We're talking about Roosh.
Anyways, that was just my anecdote. Just want to get that roast in there. I just really wanted to roast Roosh.
9 more likes. 9 more. We're almost done.
Anyways.
This needs to be reiterated, but if a man watches porn, run fast and far. He will be a shitty sexual partner.
Yeah, almost across the board.
And it's really interesting because, I mean, the Gail Dines episode goes into this in more detail. Definitely check that one out if you haven't already. But the number of men who think that them watching porn has no impact on their sexual performance is just shocking. It absolutely does. And you don't even have to ask a man if he watches porn before you know. If he uses, for example, pornified language, such as, for example, fucking, or, for example, smashing women, or just any sort of...
Whoa, you can't say fucking? That means you watch porn?
Degrading language to refer to sex as something that is done to women.
BBC or...
Yeah, so if he uses any...
The British Broadcasting Corporation?
Porn terminology, he watches porn. So you don't even have to ask him if he watches porn. They give off so many tells and they just don't even realise that's how porn sick they are.
Yeah, Coomer energy is a thing too. We talk about big dick energy, and we talk about small dick energy, but Coomer energy is a real thing.
Yeah, Coomer energy.
Yeah, and then, once you know how to, or like once, you're aware of the energy they give off, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. I think this is also why guys go for much younger women, because they haven't like been alive long enough to be able to sense this, right? Women over like 21 have had enough like experiences with men that we can clock this shit without even having to get naked with them. But yeah, like once you know, right?
Yeah.
And because 13-year-old boys, 14-year-old boys, they all have Coomer energy.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing too. It's like when you're young, pretty much all the boys in your class have Coomer energy from like 13
These
to...
are the chicks talking about Coomer energy. Like they all don't have some fucking Hitachi magic wand with like a 40 horsepower outboard motor attached to this thing that they just run through once a year because they just break down.
Maybe like 22.
And some guys just never grow out of that. Like
that, some of them never grow out of it. But like it's excusable if you're a kid and you're just now getting all your grown adult hormones and you don't quite yet know how to manage it. But part of being an adult, at least it should be for men, is learning how to manage that. It should be for everybody, really. But that's why I think a lot of times younger women can't tell the difference, because they don't know. Yeah, you're not still supposed to be a Coomer over like 16, to be honest with you. 17?
What?
Yeah, I'll give it up to 18. But yeah, like...
Yeah.
And like the thing with guys who watch a lot of porn, it's like they don't know how to talk to women and like be normal about it.
No. I mean, you could literally ask them, oh, how was your day? They'll be like, oh, nudes, please. And you're like, what the fuck? Like,
nudes, please. Nudes, please. Not even that. It'll be like, oh, I had a really bad day. Can you send me some nudes to cheer me up? Back to emotional support nudes.
Oh my God. Wasn't there was a post on Reddit that was something that was, it was an excerpt from a book about a guy who was literally dying and said that the only way he was going to survive is if he saw a boob.
No. It was like this ancient Jewish parable where a guy became obsessed.
Oh, back to the anti-Semitism.
With this woman, and then he got really sick. And he said, like, the only thing that's going to cure my illness is seeing this woman naked. He said, the only thing that's going to cure my illness is having sex with this woman. And then the elders in the community were like, no. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, let him die.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. And by the end, they're just like, well, then let him perish.
This is ancient Jewish wisdom, which is the equivalent of die mad.
Let him perish.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, if a guy's like, I need this in order to, like, if you don't have sex with me, I'm going to, like, literally die from, like, sexual starvation. It's like, then let him perish. Wisdom.
Just let him go to his ancestors. That's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that is a hard and fast rule. If he watches porn, just run fast and far.
I also find guys who use the high pressure sales tactics and try to get you in his bed.
You're the fucking salesperson. You had all the sales tactics. You can't use high pressure sales tactics on someone who knows the whole game of sales.
Into bed as soon as possible also tend to be bad, just because they know they don't have any repeat customers. So you know, they know that
It's desperation, isn't it?
it's desperation. Yeah.
And that's also a porn tactic, right? Because that's what a lot of like gonzo porn is about. They try to high pressure sale some girl into doing sexual things.
Yeah.
It's not real, though.
That's what's come out. That's happened to a lot of the porn actresses where they think they're going there for one thing, and then a bunch of guys go there and pressure them into doing other types of sex acts. So that whole type
But they still
of
think they're going there for porn.
modus operandi, where
It's
they
not like,
approach
oh,
you with
I'm
that same
there
kind of
I'm a realtor. And they go, oh, if you want to sign this deal.
pressure or
Urgency.
Coomer energy. That's all porn shit. That's all stuff they learned from porn and probably the manosphere.
Yeah. Yeah. So high pressure sales tactics, very unattractive. I want to rant a bit about like, I feel like I know the word seduction and game has been like ruined by pickup artists, right? Like, but here's the thing, like the game of seduction, when it's done well, can actually be very fun. Like where, you know, the guy pursues the woman, you know,
Come on, 5 more likes. We're almost done here.
the woman puts up a fight and then
Puts
you know,
up a fight, and then you say, all right, lady, it's nice knowing you.
there's back and forth and eventually you come together in the end kind of thing. Like that can be, that process is actually a lot of fun, but like they've turned the idea of seduction into this like really predatory, like high pressure thing, like where it no longer feels sexy anymore. It doesn't feel seductive. It just feels like I'm being,
I feel like a caged rat. I mean, it feels like a cornered.
yeah, I feel like a cornered prey animal, right? Yeah. So
That's hot.
That's not sexy.
it's not like what men call seduction or the game of seduction nowadays. To women, it's not sexy. It's like, it's the opposite of seduction. It makes me feel trapped.
It's rapey. I mean, there's no way around that. It's like anybody that's trying to sell you a shitty product through high pressure sales and through intimidation
And emotional manipulation.
and an emotional manipulation is
It's not something you want.
rape adjacent.
They're not selling a product that you want. Yeah.
But this could be solved if they listen to us and like really listen to us and not in the we say one thing and they hear another thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're like, oh, we like when men make the first move, they'll be like, these bitches like to get raped, and then that becomes like an entire manosphere post because they're extra stupid and don't listen for context and just take whatever we say to extremes.
Yeah, I mean, like the man chases, the woman runs. It's like I don't know.
It's like Pepe Le Pew.
In a way that's like
Pepe
fun
Le
and playful.
Pew.
Like you see like dogs at the dog park, you know, one dog will be like, chase me. And like they have a good time, like running around in circles, like one is chasing the other. And it's just like fun, right? It's not like the guy, it's not
I would never say that women are dogs, but you do you, lady.
like the dog that's doing the chasing is going to like rip your fucking throat out. It's going to rip the, the one who's being chased. It's not like they're going to like rip their throat out the moment they catch them, right? It's like, it's fun, it's playful. It's not creepy or predatory, right? Like, it doesn't have, these days, I don't know. The game of seduction just doesn't have that playful energy to it anymore.
It's because it's being taught by
because of Me
stupid men to
Too.
even stupider men, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally, no, it's because the whole Me Too thing, where the whole thing is a part of the game of seduction is women say no, and then guys do not take no for an answer. That's a whole part of that whole thing is you don't take no for an answer. That's part of the old school seduction game. And now you definitely take no for an answer unless you want your whole life to get fucked.
They're doing.
By the way, we hit
And it removes
150
the woman's
likes.
pleasure from the equation and just turns it into men just pursuing, what they want at the expense of women. So it's a very, very one-sided.
They're trying to score like in a video game or in
Yeah.
athletics, right? And that's the entire problem with the way that men approach sex and all these game and dating strategies is because, for men anyways, is because so much of their world is based on competitive play between men that they try to translate that over into seduction to women, not understanding that that's it's not a competition, right? And it's like the point isn't to win at the expense of the other person.
Yeah,
Wrap this
like
shit
I
up.
find it so tragic, actually, that in our culture, when a man and a woman have sex, something that should be a collaborative, mutual act, when a man and a woman have sex, the man wins and the woman loses. Right?
Yeah, and it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way. Like
Who said that?
it should be, and that's the purpose of the 3-month waiting period. It's like if you get to that point where you like each other enough to spend 3 months
No.
with
If a guy waits until the 3-month point, he fucking lost.
each other,
If that's how
by
you
the time
want
you
to
do have
score
sex,
this
it's
shit.
like both people are winning, right? I feel like when you have sex with a guy too soon, yeah, like it has this energy of like he's won, he's conquered you, he's defeated you, and then you're just like some defeated boss in a video game or something that he's overcome. And I just find that tragic, honestly, because like ultimately both men and women, like I mean,
Podcast is
I don't know about men,
tragic.
but women, we want to love men. They make it so fucking hard for us to love them, but we want to love them.
I mean, 'cause you're
and men,
bitter.
I don't know what's going on with them, but I think men in their weird way, they want to love women too, but they just go about it in all the wrong ways.
So I actually think that's a good place to wrap up.
If you have any of your own tips on how to vet for sexual compatibility without having sex, please drop them in the comments. We would love to read them.
How about no? All right, that has been the episode. Holy fuck, that was a grind. This week's been a grind. It's been 10 days, I think, since I last did the last one. I forgot how much of a grind this shit is. And yes, I'm turning into a ghost. I made the mistake of wearing a green sweater in front of a green screen. I am a fucking idiot. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. I can't believe some people watch this whole thing. Honestly, I do this, and I know it's fun or whatever, but shout out to all the high-value males, the low-value males, the negative-value males, the Scrotes, and the queens. Definitely the queens. Some of you are in here. This Tuesday, we have a new episode of Low Value Male at 9 o'clock, as always, with the topic being... what is the dumbest thing you've ever done on a dare? And you might see these, the puppies. Just feels like a bag of meat. Huh? Something wrong with me. The puppies will be out. We will be getting lots of airtime for the puppies. And also this Thursday, 10 p.m. on YouTube, episode 2 of The Bathhouse, live from the Stand Comedy Club in New York City, the Green Room. The last one was really fun. We had a good time. For those of you that called in, appreciate you calling in. We had some great comics on, and who knows what comics we will have on this week. But definitely, if you want to call in, chop it up with us, hang out. It's a fun time. Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, Royce. Yes, thanks, Royce from Revenge of the Sis for making me buy these stupid-ass, big-ass fake titties. But that's how it is. I still haven't figured out how to make, when I hit the end stream button, to not end this too early, but it is what it is. All right. Bye, everybody. See you Tuesday.